Hello and welcome to our third meeting for our new Readings in American Politics series. We've done two already. We took a little hiatus because of Father's Day. And then my mistake, I really messed up getting this next meeting together. So we don't have a lot of people right now, but that's okay because we're going to slowly try to ramp our way back up. We're going to do a few more readings in legal documents from the U.S. And then we're going to broaden the scope a bit, read some philosophies of liberalism, of Marxism, and also some more readings from Black radical activist thinkers. So far, we've read the Constitution, which we've been discussing the past two meetings. You can listen to those on our YouTube, which I assume you're listening to this on too. If anyone's listening, you can listen to the previous uploads. I want to apologize too. I'm like so out of it right now. I just woke up. I fell asleep on accident. I'm trying to wake up. I'll probably wake up over the course of this. We're also missing some of our key speakers from the last few meetings. Seems like really only me, Edward, and Tick here are people who have done the readings, but that's okay. We're just going to have a discussion, keep it kind of short, keep it kind of simple. For tonight, we read the Civil Rights Act of 1965 because I think we were discussing in the past meetings, you know, it's really important to familiarize ourselves with the different kinds of legal documentation that we're working with in the United States as we're trying to legislate around things like racism or shit like this. You know, this is a key piece of legislation, the Civil Rights Act of 1965, which is an act of Congress. And we've been learning a bit about how Congress is set up between the two houses, what is necessary to get an act passed. All of these things are kind of outlined, or are outlined rather, in the Constitution, how to proceed with such things, what kinds of powers Congress holds. But it's important for us to familiarize ourselves with the language of these texts too, so we can really get a sort of understanding of how they function, what the difference is between all of them. I don't know, I'm sure you all know because you're all gay in here. But like 2 weeks ago, there was a new Supreme Court ruling. I forget the names of it already. If anyone knows the name of the ruling, I think we might read that next week, actually. But there's a new Supreme Court ruling that ruled that workers can't be fired for being gay or transgender, which is great, a great thing to happen during Pride Month, especially. So congratulations to all you gays. Basically what that ruling cited was Title IX of this Civil Rights Act that we read tonight, and we're going to look at that in a second together. So that's really exciting and helping myself gain an understanding of how all of this stuff works together. You know, we have the Constitution, we have acts made by Congress, and then we have Supreme Court rulings that are predicated on the Constitution and previous acts of Congress, and just learning how it all works together because it's so incredibly complicated, partially by design, I think. So if we want to feel less confused in the face of all this legal jargon, we must engage with the actual materials. So anyway, let's get into it a bit. Like I said, this won't take too long. Also, my voice sometimes starts to become muffled because I accidentally put my hand on the microphone. If that happens, please someone speak up and tell me because I don't want that to happen. Lex has said she's still at work. Sorry, Lex. She can't hear this, actually, but that's okay. Lex is one of our key speakers. She'll be here next time. All right, so let's just look a little bit. What we need to do, this is an act of Congress, the Civil Rights Act of 1964. This is seen as one of the major wins in the Civil Rights era. I would say people kind of say that this act is the ultimate win of the civil rights movement. All the activism that happens in the 60s, in the 50s. I think the Brown versus Board of Education ruling is 1954, which is 10 years prior to this act being passed. So, you know, this is a long period, an entire decade and longer of people fighting for their civil rights on the basis of their race. Um, and, it's interesting and something I did not even know as I'm learning along with the rest of people. But this Civil Rights Act is only one in a list of many. The first Civil Rights Act to actually, um, I think, be passed. Let's see, I'm looking at it right now. There's a Civil Rights Act of 1866 extending the rights of emancipated slaves by stating that any person born in the United States, regardless of race, is a U.S. citizen. Um, okay, it was enacted in 1866 but not ratified until 1870. Then there's another Civil Rights Act of 1871 prohibiting race based violence against African Americans. Um, Also, the Enforcement Acts, which were three bills passed by the United States Congress between 1870 and 1871. They were criminal codes that protected African Americans' right to vote, to hold office, to serve on juries, and receive equal protections of laws. Um, Passed under the presidency of Ulysses S. Grant. Civil Rights Act of 1875, prohibiting discrimination in public accommodations, which was found unconstitutional in 1883 as Congress could not regulate conduct of individuals. So that's really interesting because the Civil Rights Act of 1875, which was later ruled to be unconstitutional, is establishing one of the things that the Civil Rights Act of 1964 goes on to establish. Um, so that's almost an entire century that goes by between 1975 and 1964. So people.
Hey, Bethany, I think you went quiet. Or that might have just been me, though. But I can't hear you.
No, I can't hear her either.
Yeah, neither can I.
We lost you. I'm still having some trouble hearing. I'm not sure if it's just me. But it sounds like
No,
you're...
I can't hear her either. Like at all. Can you hear a little bit? Or
Every now and then I hear something really kind of quiet. But I might just be making that up. I'm cooking.
all right, I'm gonna just post in the chat.
Okay.
What are you making?
I am making lemon garlic anchovy chicken thighs with some rice and parsley.
Oh my god,
Oh yeah.
wow.
I have been really lazy on the cooking front lately. I thought I'd get back into it.
I gotta go to bed soon.
I wonder if she can hear us.
I don't know. I feel like she might be away from her computer.
What was that? Did you say something?
Can you hear me now?
Oh my god.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we lost you, girl.
For how long?
Like ages. Could you hear us?
No.
We were trying to tell you.
God damn it. When did I stop talking?
I don't even know. It was a minute ago.
Fucking shit.
Yeah, it was like a
Ugh.
solid 60 seconds.
60 seconds? That's not that bad. I was talking about all the different civil rights acts that have passed, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Fuck it. I'm not gonna read all that again. But basically, there's multiple civil rights acts. Okay, I'm back. Sorry, just let me know if that happens again.
Yeah, totally.
So let's look at the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which, as I was saying, is only one Civil Rights Act out of many. Actually, hold on. Let me put my air conditioner back on. I'm overheating already. So this thing has 11 titles in total, and each one serves a different purpose. Ooh. So let's just go through quickly and summarize each one and talk about some of the implications of each one. So, oh, and I also wanted to say, because I have the Wikipedia page up, once again, this is an act of Congress, which is, a specific form of legislation that is a way to establish a law. This is a public law, as you can see in the title of it, Public Law 88 to 352. July 2nd, 1964. Okay, so we actually just passed the anniversary of it. So an act of Congress is a statute enacted by the United States Congress. It can either be a public law relating to the general public or a private law relating to specific institutions or individuals. So if I'm not mistaken, anybody who's a member of Congress, and maybe one of you know, but I believe anyone who is a member of Congress, or maybe anyone who is a member of the House, but I believe senators can also introduce acts. I think any of them can introduce an act. Do any of you know them?
I
I
do
don't
not
know,
know.
either, but it sounds right.
I'm pretty sure because I feel like I have seen Congress members propose acts individually, and then there is a vote. Um, let's just look really quickly. I believe how many members of Congress to pass an act? I think it has to have 2/3.
Oh yeah, 2/3 majority.
Yeah, in both, I believe. Let's see. If the bill passes by simple majority, simple majority I think is not 2/3 vote. I think it's just over 50%. Yeah, it is. So if bill passes by simple majority, in parentheses it says 218 of 435, I think that's how many House members we have right now. The bill moves to the Senate. In the Senate, the bill is assigned to another committee and, if released, debated and voted on. Okay. And I believe that, well, let's see. Oops. Civil Rights Act. I have the Wikipedia up for this too. Let's look at this. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 is a landmark civil rights and labor law in the United States that outlaws discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. It prohibits unequal application of voter registration requirements and racial segregation in schools, employment, and public accommodations. Initially, powers given to enforce the act were weak, but these were supplemented during later years. Congress asserted its authority to legislate under several different parts of the United States Constitution, principally its power to regulate interstate commerce under Article 1, its duty to guarantee all citizens equal protection of the laws under the 14th Amendment, and its duty to protect voting rights under the 15th Amendment. Okay, so in simpler language, what that just said is that, Congress Congress asserted its authority to legislate the Civil Rights Act because of different clauses in the Constitution, which we're all familiar with by now. Its power to regulate interstate commerce, which the Civil Rights Act actually defines within itself. Like, I don't know exactly where it is, but I think there's a place where it literally defines commerce. I think under the Title 2, where it talks about shit. Oh, I have it. Title 2, Section 201C. Yeah. The operations of an establishment affect commerce within the meaning of this title if 1. It is one of the establishments described in paragraph 1 of subsection B. 2. In the case of an establishment described in paragraph 2 of subsection B, it serves or offers to serve interstate travelers or a substantial portion of the food which it serves, gasoline, blah, blah, blah. Maybe this isn't the part I'm looking at. But anyway, part of the reason Congress is able to pass the Civil Rights Act, a lot of it which has to do with discrimination in public places and places involving commerce like movie theaters, other kinds of theaters, concert halls, sports arenas, stadiums, all of this kind of shit. It has the power to legislate because all of these things deal with commerce, and the federal government oversees all commerce. So this is the justification for why Congress has the power to legislate the Civil Rights Act. Just a little more background information. The legislation had been proposed by President John F. Kennedy in 1963, but it was opposed by filibuster in the Senate. After Kennedy was assassinated, President Lyndon B. Johnson pushed the bill forward. So I'm not sure entirely who writes the acts themselves. Who the fuck?
Sorry, that was me. I got a notification.
It's okay. I mean, I'm looking, sorry to not have this all ahead of time, but I'm just looking at some of the background info, and it looks like this bill was kind of composed by many people. It was kind of a collaborative effort, and lobbying around it was a collaborative effort. So let's get into the text of the bill a little bit. Edward, you had some things you said you wanted to say. Do you want to say them now, or some of them now? Do you have anything to add before we get into this a little bit?
I mean, I can say some stuff now.
Say
So
some
like,
stuff now.
okay, I'm gonna say some. So one of the things that I had noticed that I thought was not odd per se, but like not good is like this act builds upon a previous act. Like it says right at the top of Title 1, like Section 101, of the revised statute, add this paragraph, insert 1 after A in subsection A, and add at the end of subsection A the following new paragraphs. Like, that's a lot of nonsense. I feel like it's unnecessarily complicated in a way that prevents like other people from reading it. And I wish that, because like obviously laws have to be updated. That's like, one of the fundamental tenets of our constitution is that it's a living document that can be changed. But I wish it was like Git, like a Git repository where you can, add documents or change documents, Git blame, see who who made those changes and stuff like that. Because
Yeah.
I feel like this is both like hard to read, hard to see exactly how it relates in with everything, and it would be like who, like you were saying, like who wrote this, who wrote which parts of this. And I'm more interested in that in like a general context and less in like this specific document necessarily. Because like, we see rampant corruption in our government, and it would be cool to see who wrote what parts where, making which changes.
Right.
As just like a critique of the way the Constitution is amended.
Right. And it's interesting you bring up GitHub, and this is something we were talking about last time too, and what we've been talking about every time we've met. Like, the very structure of our government and how it operates and what the functions of each individual piece of legislation are and how those functions interact with other functions, like the whole system is really convoluted. And I feel like the more we've been studying it in just these few weeks, the more like so many design flaws are revealing themselves, you know? Like it's hard to really get a full cognitive picture of how it's all working all together. And I feel like you just said it's unnecessarily complicated. I think partially due to design, but I think overall due to just general incompetence and laziness, you know? I mean,
Well,
like,
oh, sorry.
oh no, go ahead.
I feel like it makes a lot of sense given like the cultural context of the original document. Like they were rushed as shit. They were, trying to fight a war and then convince everyone after they got their independence that like this was the solution, because I mean this wasn't even the first solution. Like the Articles of Federation were the first ones. Um and so like it was a rushed thing. Like the first draft of anything is never good. Like, how many times do you release a song with the initial lyrics that you wrote, or how many times do I, push software without changing every single piece of how I did it initially?
Right.
So
And
like,
that's something we were getting into last time too, you know, the idea that you just said, the Constitution, maybe a lot of why it's so structurally flawed and the philosophy of it really does seem quite poor in many places, is because they were already working with a bunch of variables that had already been established. Like you said, there had been a war and they felt a need to create a federal government, and they had to unite all of these disparate parties, these individual states with competing interests. They had to reach so many compromises, you know? And it would have been so markedly different, I think, if they had written a plan while they were still in Britain, you know? I'm like,
yeah.
why didn't someone write like the perfect government ahead of time? You have to have a plan, otherwise you're always going to end up in this situation, you know? And that's
hmm
something we were talking about too, like with talks of revolution and shit like this. This is one of my criticisms, and I think everyone should feel this way, that like you need to have a solid plan ahead of time. You can't just do something and then be like, oh, we'll make it work, you know? The Constitution is like a perfect example of why just trying to make it work is going to lead you to so many fucking problems. And you would think that they would have like, well, I don't know. I mean, now we're talking about it like, why don't we just rewrite the fucking Constitution? This thing is a fucking mess. Like, just the structure of it, it's a fucking mess. And also, I mean, the philosophy of it is just unsound. Like I think we were talking about last time. Um, the Declaration of Independence says that we have these inalienable rights: the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You know, and like this is sort of this nebulous like justification that we're always sort of citing, but the Declaration of Independence isn't really a legal document in and of itself. I mean, it is, but it's not like the Constitution is beholden to it. Like shit like this, you know, it's just kind of all over the place. It's really the US government is so fucking messy. It's a wonder that we can function at all. And then like you're saying, I mean, even reading this document, there's just like little semantics problems that are pissing me off. Like in Title IX, when they're saying when they said they're talking about sex, it said like the employer cannot discriminate the employee based on his sex. or or like I was like, wait, his sex? Like you guys need to fucking like get your shit together. Like
mm
this document was probably just, I feel like it really does demonstrate incompetence, and this is the importance of philosophy and why we should all be studying it, because these are the kinds of things that you start to really think about, you know, how language is so important, how when it's vague, it can lead to so many problems, or sometimes
mm
it's good to be intentionally vague, you know, but it needs to be purposeful. You can't just be vague because you don't have a fucking answer. Otherwise, you're going to run into so many problems down the road.
mm
But anyway, let's start to look at some of these titles and we'll just summarize them quickly and then talk a little bit um, about what we think some of the implications are. Um, I'm just going to pull up. Hold on, I'm all over the place. I'm gonna use the Wikipedia as our guide, which is so irresponsible of me. But I have the text up as well, just to see if there's any factual stuff we could look at. So like I said, there are 11 titles total. Let's just look at them and summarize them in order. And they start really quickly. For anyone who hasn't read this document and is just listening, the act starts with just basically a general paragraph, an introduction. I'll read it really quick. And then it gets right into the titles. So this first paragraph before it gets into the titles is just this. It says, an act to enforce the constitutional right to vote, to confer jurisdiction upon the district courts of the United States to provide injunctive relief against discrimination in public accommodations, to authorize the Attorney General to institute suits to protect constitutional rights in public facilities and public education, to extend the Commission on Civil Rights, to prevent discrimination in federally assisted programs, to establish a Commission on Equal Employment Opportunity, and for other purposes. So here we go with the vague language again. And then it gets right into the title. So this first paragraph, or I don't even know if it's not a paragraph, it's not even a complete sentence, but it's basically just summarizing what this act exists to do, and again, asserting Congress's right to do this, basically saying, the Constitution says that Congress has the power over these things that it mentions, constitutional rights involving public facilities and public education, discrimination and public accommodations. Basically, it's prefacing the act with, like, we have the power to legislate over these things. This power is granted us by the Constitution, and that's why this act exists. That's the justifying argument. So Title I is about voting rights. There's some legal jargon right in the beginning. Mentions the Civil Rights Act of 1957. Like Edward was saying, it already is like, see this document, see that document, see this, insert this after this. Like, you basically have to have all the civil rights documents in front of you, or previous laws, to know what they're talking about here. But then it has this. No person acting under color of law shall, A, in determining whether any individual is qualified under state law or laws to vote in any federal election. So basically, okay, and then B, deny the right of any individual to vote in any federal election because of an error or omission or any record or paper relating to any application, registration, or other act requisite to voting. C, employ any literacy test as a qualification for voting in any federal election unless I, such test is administered to each individual and is conducted wholly in writing, and 2, a certified copy of the test and of the answers given by the individual is furnished to him within 25 days of the submission of his request, yada, yada, yada. Basically, one of the big ways for Black people to be eliminated from their right to vote or to be disqualified is to employ literacy tests, and also this greatly impacts immigrants who don't speak the language, This is really fucked up, because this is something people have been fighting against. This part reminds me kind of the 13th Amendment, where it's like slavery is abolished except unless you're a prisoner. This is kind of what they're doing here with the literacy tests. Like, literacy tests are not allowed unless the test is administered to each individual and is conducted in writing. What does that even fucking mean? Like, that is a literacy test,
Right.
Like, so basically literacy tests are allowed. You're just like signaling that you know that they're racist. Like, okay. That's crazy. I don't fucking know what to make of this.
I feel like there's a lot of shit like that in the laws where, like, we're told it's ended, but it's really just not. Like, it's not the abolishment of literacy tests, it's a literacy test reform. Just like slavery
Yeah,
wasn't
not even
abolished, it was
close.
reformed.
Right. It says that literacy tests are not allowed and then has like 3 paragraphs about how they are allowed as long as they do this, this, or that, you know? I mean, and I think that the voting rights, the voting rights established in this title or whatever, I mean, is there any improvements? Like, I mean, look at all of the things people are talking about today with what impacts the black vote, you know? Things like, um, what's it called? What's it called when
Voter
voting districts?
suppression,
Yeah, voting suppression, but
gerrymandering.
gerrymandering when they're drawing lines across voting districts to basically put the black vote all together so that they have less representation in their respective states, you know, things like this. How do you prevent against this? Also, the fact that felons aren't allowed to vote in so many states, and we know that I think in most states, I think maybe one state allows felons to vote. I could look it up real fast, but you know, shit
I
like
know.
this, like, yeah. Uh-oh, did I break out again? Tick, where'd you
Oh,
go?
yeah, sorry. I was gonna say, my stepdad is almost 50 and voted for the first time in his life this year because he got like some dumb marijuana felony when he was 19 and had like literally never got to vote in his life until this year over some like 2 years in prison when he was like 19. Yeah. It's just so crazy strict for no reason. But like I know they very recently repealed it here, but still then like even only partially. Like it's not anywhere what it could be.
Yeah, that's fucking nuts. Like, and yeah, I mean, racism just becomes further and further, and also classism, you know, it just becomes further entrenched in the system. Like, we were talking about last time, you know, it's like, okay, we abolish slavery, but create the exception to the rule that you know, it's allowed if you're a prisoner, and then you just criminalize the fuck out of the black community and suppress their vote that way, and also suppress the vote in all types of economic ways, you know, like, I mean, you can't really prove for a lot of this shit that an agenda is necessarily racist, you know? Like, oh, your voting machines are all fucking broken in this black community, that's weird, but like prove that it's some part of some racist agenda, you know? Like you can't. Or at least if you could, the government gives us no means to do that. So until the government establishes some sort of criteria, then it's kind of impossible to fight these things on the basis of race, you know? It's fucked up. I mean, I was just seeing about the Georgia elections like 3 weeks ago, I believe
Oh
it
my
was
god, yeah.
now. Yeah, there was like four hours or longer. I think it was longer. The polls were supposed to be closed at like 7 p.m. and it went until midnight. And it was in so many black neighborhoods that people were just waiting. And it's true that, you know, COVID made it worse, but this is not a problem that is like rare necessarily, you know. Why is it always that black communities are the ones that have the broken machines that close at weird hours, are open at weird hours, you know? A lot of black
Right.
people are working class because of systemic racism and shit, you know. They don't have opportunities always to go vote or find a babysitter so they can go vote. They purposefully closed and make it harder for black people to vote, you know, and black people don't have the tools of government to protect themselves. And that's what things like the Civil Rights Act are supposed to help ensure. But as you can see, even in the Civil Rights Act, you know, there's all these exceptions. This isn't allowed unless this or this, you know.
That's like speaking on, recently where it's been worse because of COVID. A lot of recently, a lot of black voting districts aren't getting their absentee ballots in, and we've
They
pushed to
aren't
make
what? Sorry, you cut out for a
aren't
second.
aren't getting absentee ballots mailed to them.
Mm.
So it's like, they're getting like quote unquote lost in the mail or whatever. And so it's like you can see where it's like even where we have things like absentee ballots meant to alleviate that, even that system is exploited to, suppress votes.
Mm-hmm. It's fucking nuts, you know. And then on top of this, I mean, the more we read about this, like, and, you know, the past two readings we read the first text by the anarchist Lorenzo Kumboa Irvin and then Angela Davis, you know, and both of them are critiquing capitalism. And I think that it's so important to think about how economics is enforcing all of this shit as well, you know, because, and it makes you think too how, like, our government, if we're going to be a capitalist society, which obviously we are, the federal government, like, oversees all commerce and, like, gives itself these rights. And even in the Constitution, you know, says, like, the Constitution establishes that, like, these positions will be paid by the federal government and shit, you know, like, money is such an integral part of our government. Our government is intrinsically a capitalist government, and yet at the same time it doesn't really outline any code of ethics for economics itself. Like, economics is sort of this singular entity, but we need to, I mean, it's sort of, I mean, like, documents like this outline specific codes of conduct for commerce and discrimination and shit, but it's like there needs to be more ethics of economics and commerce itself in our government, because now everything is just motivated by some sort of financial bias, and it always has been, and this greatly impacts the black community, you know. This is why they have shitty voting machines and whatever else. So it's all fucked. Let's continue. Title 2. Injunctive relief against discrimination in places of public accommodation. So this title is basically exactly that, against discrimination in places of public accommodation. And it says which places they're talking about in section 201B. But actually, let me read the first sentence of this title too. All persons shall be entitled to the full and equal enjoyment of the goods, services, facilities, privileges, advantages, and accommodations of any place of public accommodation as defined in this section, without discrimination or segregation on the ground of race, color, religion, or national origin. Each of the following establishments which serves the public is a place of public accommodation within the meaning of this title if its operations affect commerce or if discrimination or segregation by it is supported by state action. Number 1. Any inn, hotel, motel, or other establishment which provides lodging to transient guests other than establishment located within a building which contains not more than 5 rooms for rent or hire and which is actually occupied by the proprietor. See, like, that right there is an exception, which is weird. I don't really understand this. Maybe one of you guys has some ideas, but I found it curious, I don't know about you, that it's specified inns, hotels, motels, or other establishments which provides lodging to transient guests. Is the reason that this is first to, like, sort of assert the federal government's, like, right to legislate here because it involves things like travel, and the federal government oversees interstate travel and shit? Like, why was this, like, the first thing and its own thing? You know what I'm saying? And then it gives this exception about, like, hotels inside, like, a bigger place where there's only 5 rooms for rent or something. Like, what is this? Let's talk about this thing.
I had that exact same thought, or not. I had that exact same question. You followed it up with, like, a logical explanation, where I was like, why the fuck is this the first thing that they're gonna talk about? Like, just start enumerating businesses.
Yeah. And the reason that I think it probably has to do with the fact federal government oversees interstate travel is only because it says transient guests, you know? I feel like they're being, like, you know, I don't know, like, the language of this first one sort of seems like it's like, well, we're the federal government, so this is what we exist to oversee, so, like, this is the first thing, you know?
Yeah, like a justification.
That's my best guess. Yeah.
Yeah,
And then this one too has a fucking weird ass exception. Other than an establishment located within a building which contains not more than 5 rooms for rent or hire and which is actually occupied by the proprietor. Like, why?
Right.
Oh, and which is actually occupied. Okay, so they're basically saying if there's a place with only 5 rooms for rent and the landlord lives there, then that's okay.
Yeah.
That's so
I feel like it's kind of like an exception, just like for like racists, you know? It's like,
Yeah.
okay, we know that there'll be some people who own small housing facilities. Like, if it's tiny enough and the guy lives there, then it's okay if he discriminates. Like,
Yeah.
what? As long as it's small enough, it's okay.
Only a little teeny tiny amount of racism.
Yeah. As long as it's not like a big, like, apartment complex. Because, that's where all black people live anyway. In these big housing projects. As long as it's just a tiny, tiny little housing complex, that's alright. Like, what? Get out of here, Civil Rights Act. Anyway, so number 2, oh, but that actually isn't about housing. That's only about temporary housing, I believe, because there's a whole section on housing. So, basically, I guess all the tiny little mom and pop fucking bed and breakfasts or something. Like, I don't fucking know. They're allowed to be racist. So that's section B1. Okay, so number 2. Any restaurant, cafeteria, lunchroom, lunch counter, soda fountain, or other facility principally engaged in selling food for consumption on the premises, including but not limited to any such facility located on the premises of any retail establishment or any gasoline station. So basically, food that is sold. This is a place of public accommodation.
I'm sorry,
I
did it
mean,
just say gas stations are exempt?
it said food places in gas stations.
Oh my god.
Yeah, if I'm reading that correctly. I mean, this is also curious. Like, this is another thing that's really bothering me, like, philosophically. It's like, okay, so is the justification for any of these? Because the first one, it seems to be like we were saying, it's strange why inns, motels, hotels are like this place mentioned. And it's like, okay, well, I guess since the Congress is enacting this act, that's supposed to be some sort of like call to authority. Like, we control interstate commerce. So this is why. But then it has restaurants and specifies, where food is sold. So it's like, okay, well, the federal government oversees commerce. So is that why? So then isn't really the justification for why Congress can legislate here has to do with fucking the fact that there's sales, like that money is being traded, you know what I'm saying? So then why wouldn't that just cover literally any establishment where there's a transference of money?
Right.
I don't fucking get it.
Yeah, I don't know. That one was weird to me too.
They're all weird. I hate it here. This is why, like, there should be footnotes, like, what's going on here?
Right.
Anyway, number 3. Any motion picture house, theater, concert hall, sports arena, stadium, or other place of exhibition or entertainment. And 4. Any establishment which is physically located within the premises of any establishment otherwise covered by the subsection, yada yada yada. Or within the premises of which is physically located any such covered establishment which holds itself out as serving patrons of such covered. Okay. C. The operations of an establishment affect commerce within the meaning of this title if 1. It is one of the establishments described in paragraph 1 of subsection B. 2. In the case of an establishment described in paragraph 2 of subsection B, it serves or offers to describe interstate travelers or a substantial portion of the food which it serves, or gasoline or other products which it sells has moved in commerce. In the case of an establishment described in blah, 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 it customarily presents films, performances, athletic teams, exhibitions, or other sources of entertainment which move in commerce. And in the case of an establishment described in paragraph 4 of subsection B, it is physically located within yada yada yada. I mean, the more you read this thing, it seems like what they're trying to do is basically say, like, I think the justification for this for why Congress has the power to legislate here is that these are all acts of commerce, right? Movie theaters, food, gasoline, all this shit. But it seems like all of the reasons it's like, it seems almost like it's a safeguard against people like being able to sue for discrimination if there's problems. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like the reason that it's not just like you can't discriminate in any sale or transaction, it's instead like this like legal jargon that makes it complicated. Like, maybe sometimes you kind of can, like, we'll just make this language incredibly complex and specify the institutions we can think of, and if there's any others that, like, aren't there, then we'll deal with that when it happens. I feel like it's more like, okay, like movie theaters, yeah, like restaurants, yeah, let's just put these all in. But like, they don't want to just put some blanket thing like any sale or
Right.
anything involving commerce, because then that would like be too much. It seems like preventative. Like, they don't want black people to be able to sue for racism. So they're just going to specify what they can think of where they wouldn't have a problem, and then everything else we'll deal with it on a case by case basis.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that that's like a fair assessment? That's the vibe I'm getting from this.
Yeah, definitely. Honestly, I think a lot of I think that's kind of something you see a lot in legislation like this, and something kind of the whatever the legalese that's just intentionally made to be so difficult to slog through that you don't know whether or not you are legally being discriminated against. I think that is a pretty common theme in a lot of um
Hello?
in a, am I going out
Oh,
again?
sorry, I cut out. Yeah, start that
Oh
sentence over again.
no.
I can't hear you.
Ah, ah.
There you
I
are.
was just gonna say I think it's pretty in like legislation like this to kind of really intentionally make it so difficult to slog through that you really don't know whether or not you're legally being discriminated against. And especially when so much of you know um of this, and it's kind of like along the same veins as the literacy tests and stuff, is they build this in in writing that is so complex, and then they suppress access to education and literacy. um
I
Man.
can't hear you.
did I do it again?
Yeah.
God damn it, where did I just basically, yeah, we're gonna let you have this, but we're not gonna make it easy, is I think the general attitude in a lot of these legislations.
The
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
text could,
Sorry,
the whole
I
text
can't hear
could
you.
be much like simpler and more effective if they just said shit like, you know, you can't be racist in an establishment that is selling things.
Right. But yeah, exactly. But instead, it's like movie theaters, restaurants, in a gas station. It's like it seems like someone sat and thought like, where could people be racist? And then we'll write these down, like just to give them protections. But if something else arises, like we're saying, it's like then we'll deal with that on an individual basis. It seems more like it's not trying to prevent racism. It's almost trying to protect certain racisms. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, but this might happen, so we'll just make sure that they're good in all these major places we can think of.
Yeah.
But we'll deal with the rest of it if it happens. And this one's interesting too. I was thinking about that case of the baker that didn't want to create a cake for the gay men
For the gaming.
because the gay men, the gay men of the north. It was like, I think that was in the Midwest.
It was
Um,
in Kentucky, or no,
it
the
was in
woman or
Kentucky.
something. It's some Angela, whatever her name is. I think she was the one who fucking. Oh my god, I don't know. I'll find it. Continue.
Angela who? What was she, like a senator or something? Like, yeah, well, I was thinking about that case while reading this. Maybe one of the things we should do is read the Supreme Court ruling on that, the baker, because they ultimately protected his right to not bake the cake for the gay men. And if that had been discrimination on the basis of race, I think that that would not have been allowed. But this Title II only talks about religion and uh, race and shit and nationality. So that's interesting because I wonder, like, if it had been black people or something, you know, I think he would have been in trouble. And it's interesting too because this protects on the basis of religion, which, you know, the more I think about the freedoms of religion and shit, it's such a double-edged sword, you know, because like that if not discriminating on the basis of religion for like a thing like a movie theater, that could offer protections to someone who like might be wearing a hijab or something if the movie theater has a rule for no head coverings or something like this, you know. But would this also protect, quote unquote, someone's right to like, what if your religion is Christianity and you don't like gay men and you don't want gay men in your movie theater, you know? Like, are you allowed to kick them out? Deny them service? The baker was allowed to deny service. But that was an interesting ruling. From what I recall, it had more to do with the fact that the baker, they asked for a custom cake, I guess, and the baker did not want to create a custom cake. He would have sold them one that already existed, but didn't want to make them a custom one because he wasn't artistically inspired by their homosexuality. Some shit. Definitely need to look at that case. It's also
Yeah, we should tack it onto our onto the reading list.
yeah, because we have to read a Supreme Court ruling now that we've read an act. Because we really need to understand, I think, what kind of things can actually change the law, the overall law. And these are all, every time like a new law is kind of established, they're all entered into the US Code, I believe, which is like a federal compilation of all laws that are passed. And there's like over thousands of them, I believe, at this point. Like the US, I think it's called the US Legal Code. There's just like thousands of entries in this thing. Like every time a new act is passed or a Supreme Court ruling, I believe. I don't know, the structure of everything is just so fucking complicated. It's pretty fucking crazy. Let's move on. Sorry, I was smoking a cigarette. I have to plug my phone in by my computer. 1 second. Sorry, I'm off tonight. I'm still waking up.
Insane.
Oh, it's good that we're here. I don't want this project to become abandoned, even as people lose motivation and the news moves on to different topics. You know, I'm guilty also of this a bit by missing last week and not posting the reading for tonight until yesterday. But we must continue. Okay, let's see. Okay, here we go. So, again, Title I was voting rights, which was, yeah, we just looked at that. Public accommodations, discrimination. Title III, desegregation of public facilities. This starts on page 6 of the PDF. So, this one was complicated. This is about the Attorney General. Whenever the Attorney General receives a complaint in writing signed by an individual to the effect that he is being deprived of or threatened with the loss of his right to the equal protection of the laws on account of his race, color, religion, or national origin, by being denied equal utilization of any public facility which is owned, operated, or managed by, on, or behalf of any state or subdivision thereof. other than a public school or public college is defined in section 401 of Title 4. Ugh, some more cross-referencing. Okay, I'm about to put my stupidity on blast. What is the Attorney General? Who is the Attorney General?
I think they're
They-
like the big top dog America lawyer.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm
Isn't
pretty sure
this
they're
so sad?
America's
Who the
lawyer.
fuck?
I don't know. Let me look it up for us.
I'm looking it up right now. This is so sad. God. Attorney General. In most common law jurisdictions, the Attorney General or Attorney General with a hyphen, okay, is the main legal advisor to the government. The plural is
so
Attorney
America's
General
lawyer.
okay. So there's an Attorney General, I guess, of the federal government, and then I think each state has its own federal or its own Attorney General, I believe.
Yeah, I think so.
Hold on, United States. In the federal government of the United States, the Attorney General is a member of the cabinet, okay, and as head of the Department of Justice is the top law enforcement officer and lawyer for the government. Okay. So the federal Attorney General is a member of cabinet, so part of the executive branch, head of the Department of Justice. Okay. And the Department of Justice, also known as the Justice Department, is a federal executive department of the United States government responsible for the enforcement of the law and administration of justice in the United States of America. Okay. So let me read this one more time now that we know who the Attorney General is, at least the federal Attorney General, which is who they are speaking of since this is a federal document. Whenever the Attorney General receives a complaint in writing signed by an individual to the effect that he is being deprived of or threatened with the loss of his right to the equal protection of the laws on account of his race, color, religion, or national origin, by being denied equal utilization of any public facility which is owned, operated, or managed by on behalf of any state or subdivision thereof, other than a public school or public college as defined in Section 401, and the Attorney General believes the complaint is meritorious and certifies that the signer or signers of such complaint are unable in his judgment to initiate and maintain appropriate legal proceedings for relief. Oh my God, this run-on sentence. And that the institution of an action will materially further the orderly progress of desegregation in public facilities, the Attorney General is authorized to institute for or in the name of the United States, a civil action in any appropriate district court of the United States against such parties and for such relief as may be appropriate, and such court shall have and shall exercise jurisdiction on proceedings instituted pursuant to this section. Jesus fucking Christ, that sentence. Ridiculous. That's ridiculous. I'm so confused. It said except for a public school or college, as defined in Title 4? Well, because Title 4, I believe, so many tabs open. Title 4 is the one that is about desegregation of public education, so that's maybe why. Oh, I cut out again. Am I back?
Hi, I think so.
Hi, sorry. Don't know what's going on.
Fine, fine. It might be Discord. It's been acting up lately.
Yeah. And also my phone. My phone is starting to be weird. Like, I have the charger plugged in, but the fucking thing is like keeps disconnecting. And I feel like every time my charger like connects to the phone, sometimes it like surges out and disconnects me or some shit. I don't know. Sorry, just let me know when it happens. Yeah, so this run-on sentence is fucking ridiculous. I don't think it's technically a run-on, but it's very confusing. It's basically, I think the reason that it excludes public school or college is just because there's a specific title that deals with public schooling, Title 4, which it mentions. So this is places of public public facilities, except for schools, but schools has its own title. But, just the language of this, again, we can see that it seems more interested in making sure that people don't have too many civil rights, because one of the fucking justifications, or one of the reasons the attorney general would be forced to follow up with somebody, like filing a complaint where they think that they've been discriminated on the basis of their race, they have to believe that the accusation is meritorious, or that it has merit. Like, what a fucking thing to include, What if the attorney general is just some racist asshole and doesn't believe it to be meritorious?
Right. So even as they kind of pretend to make these steps, they still leave wiggle room to behave the same way they did before the act was passed.
Right. I feel like the whole fucking everything we read so far is just like it's so much more complicated than it needs to be. Just make it so that you can't fucking discriminate. Like,
Mm-hmm.
So what would some of these public facilities be? I don't believe it actually lists them. What is a public facility that is not a public school or public college? I just going off the top of my head, I would think of things like bathrooms at train stations or something. Like, I don't know what is a public facility. Do you guys know?
Yeah,
What is a public facility? Civil, because it doesn't list them here. I don't know how public facility is defined. Okay, let's see. Public facilities are facilities owned, operated, or managed by state or local governments, like courthouses or jails. Okay. At the same time as the sit-ins and freedom rides, other protesters demonstrated against segregation in public facilities. Okay, so state-owned institutions, and it does mention this. So if you feel as if you've been discriminated against on the basis of your race in a public courthouse in your state or a prison, then you can submit a complaint to the Attorney General, who will decide whether or not your complaint is meritorious, and then maybe we'll do something about it.
Oh, libraries.
Oh, really? Libraries?
Right. I feel like libraries would fall under that.
I'm not sure. Let's look it up. Is a library a public one hand? And Shannon in the chat just mentioned, Shannon, you can't talk? She just mentioned state parks, which I think would be a public facility. I don't know. Is a public facility only, because the definition we just looked at said they're managed by state or local governments. So what would it be called? What is like isn't a state, oh, well, a state park, that is owned by the state. So yeah, I think a state park would be. Aren't there federal parks too? You can't hear? Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you, yeah.
Edward can't hear us. Edward, hang up and come back. We're typing. Who was just talking? Was that S Forum?
Yep.
Hey.
Hello.
You're in Massachusetts, right? Not to air you out. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Holy shit, what was that?
It's good to... What the fuck? What was that?
I have no idea.
I'm
not going to think about it.
Spooky.
Was that in your house, Tick?
No, that wasn't
Tick?
me. That was one of y'all got.
Oh God, I thought like someone's getting murdered on voice chat. Who was that? Do you need help?
It happened in my house, but I don't know what it was, and I'm not going to go look, so.
You're not gonna go look?
No, why?
You have all
look.
these people on the phone with you.
Go look.
Now is the safest time to go look.
Bro, what if
No,
someone
It's
the people
probably
who go
nothing.
and look die in the
Go
horror
look.
movies.
It's
You have to
probably
go do it
nothing.
in
That was like a
life.
large ass crash.
Oh, look.
I don't even know where it came from.
Oh, find where it
Well,
came from.
what if
It
someone's
came from
breaking
inside
in?
the house.
What if there's an animal?
Yeah, it definitely came from inside the house, but I don't know what the hell it was.
You have to
You got
find
a
it.
ghost.
You have to find
Man,
it.
I don't care. They can take me.
It could be like a it could be a mime.
A mime? It could be. Shit. Well, we'll just check in on you every few minutes, make sure you're not dead. So,
You good?
you just asked, is a library a public facility? I just looked it up. Libraries established by a local government are generally considered to be public, despite the fact that they may be organized as nonprofit corporations. As cited in the New York example, a nonprofit library can also serve a school district. So I guess some libraries are public. That's the vibe I'm getting. But some
Yeah,
are
because
not.
my mayor wanted to shut all of our libraries down.
What?
Fuck that.
Why?
Yeah.
For budget cuts or something?
Partially for budget cuts, but I think also because in the middle of like a really racist tirade, he was like, and we're going to shut down all of the libraries because at this point, if you don't have an iPad, then, you're wasting your time and there's no
God.
point because everybody has the
What?
internet. Yeah.
What?
That
Yeah.
is insane. Not only is that like super classist, which becomes racist, it's also like ageist. Like old people don't fucking read on iPads. I feel like libraries mostly exist for older people at this point, which
Bro,
is sad.
I can't even read on that. I can't even read on a fucking iPad computer. That shit gives me headaches.
Me neither.
I don't know how
I
people
need to take notes in the margins and shit. My
One
printer's
of
been
the
broken for a few months. It's driving me nuts. Sorry, Shannon. Hi,
one
Shannon.
of the hi one of the reasons why old people can't like use technology and like touchscreens is because there's like less moisture in their hands, so it's just
Oh,
harder
Are you
to click.
serious?
Yeah,
holy shit.
That's
I learned
wild.
that on
Crazy.
YouTube.
Oh my god.
That's such an
What?
interesting factoid. Wow, never even thought of that. Because I thought it detected heat, but it detects moisture?
Well, I don't know, it's probably a mix of like many different things, but because it's like they're less moist.
Oh
Isn't it like
no.
the
It's because oh the capacitive touch screen. So when you touch it, it generates it connects like a super tiny circuit, generates like an electric charge. So that's why the moisture would help you.
Oh,
You'd
I
need
was
some
gonna
kind of
say,
conductive material there.
doesn't it like because that's why you have to use special gloves to type.
This is
Yeah.
a discussion. I don't really know how to get out of it.
What? Who's that? Who said that? Amber, are you trying to exit this discussion that you just joined on accident? I think that's what I just heard.
Oh my god, is it the ghost?
Sorry.
It's the fucking
Just
ghost
go
at the house.
into audio discussion in Discord, and there's an option to hang up with the red phone.
It's the ghost in Esperan's house.
No.
No. Yeah, I don't know. I think I heard that correctly. You're accidentally in a Discord discussion. Just go into Discord, the app, and then to the left you'll see audio discussion. You can click
I
that.
meant to get in on this, but I was in a room where I didn't want to open it.
Oh. Well, we record them and post them later too. So if you're trying to
Okay,
not be
cool.
here right now, you can always listen to it later.
Yeah, I'll stay.
Cool. Well, now you know how to leave.
Well,
I like-
now that there's another person, I'm gonna go because I have to be up for work in the morning.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thanks for being here for a bit.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Thank you for doing these things.
Hell yeah. I'll post the next one like earlier this time. Sorry about that. We're gonna definitely continue this every Sunday. So
Thank you.
we're just getting back into
Good
it.
night, everyone. You're all amazing. Peace out. Don't forget to wash your hands. Bye.
Right.
Good night.
Good night, Edward. Have fun at work. So here we are. Yeah, sorry. We should. I feel like I'm really sucking at this discussion tonight, but
Well, you're
I'm
fine.
getting back into the swing of things. As long as we're looking at materials and discussing them, then we're doing something good. Even though we could be doing it better, I could be doing it better. At least we're fucking doing it, right? Shit.
I think plus like this is just like the timing for this is just a busy fucking time of year with, Father's Day and 4th of July and all that shit. Like I think it's just people haven't had as much prep as typical and Discord's been acting up,
Right.
etc. I think
Right, and
that next time will
Father's
be
Day really
easier.
fucked me up because I had to go to my family's, and then I was like, oh,
Yeah.
what should we read next time? I already had the John Locke reading ready, but I'm like, we need to read some more actual documentation because, like, we
Yeah.
don't even know who the fucking Attorney General is. Like, need to, like, I still don't have a grip. I want to leave this series with a firm grasp of, like, at least the most basic skeleton of the structure of federal versus state law, you know?
Right.
Like, that is the most important thing, because I don't fucking get this complicated bullshit, and the language of this documentation is not helping us at all.
Hmm.
Ugh.
Yeah, we'll just get a little more prep time and notice for next week, and I bet it'll be a lot smoother if
Yeah.
Discord is so willing.
Yeah. Don says, you've been watching Crash Course videos and they do nothing for you for government shit. Are you talking about the PBS one, Don? Because I've been watching that one too, and what I do is watch it on 75% speed because that host speaks really quickly and I cannot grasp what he's saying in
I
real
do the
time.
same.
Yeah, and then I also rewatch each one. Like, I think you have to watch at 75% speed once and then watch it again, honestly. Like, doing things twice is so underrated. Like, people don't do this enough, you know? I like to watch Jeopardy episodes twice in a row because then I remember some of the trivia. Shannon loves Craig, the host. You
Craig's the
started
best.
listening to Civics 101 podcast, Don? Cool, link it. Link it in
Oh,
the chat.
I think even Craig's
I
a
don't...
recording robot.
No,
I was
fuck
like,
him.
yeah,
Craig, the PBS host. Fuck the
him
robot.
too.
All right, let's continue. There's 11 and we've only gone through 4. Jesus Christ. Title 4, Desegregation of Public Education. And this is interesting because I believe that Brown versus Board of Education technically overruled desegregation in public schooling facilities, and that was passed in 1954. So why would they then? Maybe this is just sort of to like encode it into the Civil Rights Act alongside all of these other things. Let's see, Brown versus Board of Education. Ooh, that happened in Kansas. Okay. Brown versus Board of Education of Topeka, 1954, was a landmark decision of the U.S. Supreme Court in which the court ruled that the U.S. state laws establishing racial segregation in public schools are unconstitutional, even if the segregated schools are otherwise equal in quality. So racial segregation was ruled unconstitutional in 1954. And then in Title IV, okay, so Title IV is desegregation. So it's basically, I think, more of just more sort of encoding further into law what is or should be allowed. And like we said earlier, you know, the Civil Rights Act, when it first passed, wasn't even like heavily enforced. Like as time goes on, there's more rulings, more acts, like to basically be able to enforce the Civil Rights Act more, to grant more authority to the ruling party so that they can actually enforce these laws, or to citizens so they can actually sue on the basis of discrimination and this or that. So, you know, it's not totally surprising that there's a whole title now devoted to desegregation in public schooling, even though Brown versus Board of Education had already ruled racial segregation unconstitutional 10 years prior. So, something to be thinking about as we're examining the structure. Let's just read this first thing real quick. So, it defines for us what desegregation is, according to this document. It says, desegregation means the assignment of students to public schools and within such schools without regard to their race, color, religion, or national origin. But desegregation shall not mean the assignment of students to public schools in order to overcome racial imbalance. Look at that. Again, it's like, we don't believe in desegregation, but it doesn't mean here that we will actively work towards more segregated or desegregated school populations. Isn't that curious? No. The answer is no. So basically, it's like desegregation, but no affirmative action. Or they're saying that's not what we mean here. Are you guys still there?
Yeah, hi, I'm listening.
Okay, I just want to make sure, because usually when there's silence, it means I cut out.
No, yeah, you're good.
Okay, so it also defines for us public school. It says public school means any elementary or secondary educational institution, and public college means any institution or higher education or any technical or vocational school above the secondary school level, provided that such public school or public college is operated by a state, subdivision of a state, or a governmental agency within a state, yada, yada, yada. So basically, it's defining for us what a public school, what a public college is, and these are the ones that are state-owned and operated. So this is interesting, right? Because, again, it's like, okay, so we desegregate, or segregation is not permitted. At the same time, we're not going to actively work towards less segregated school populations, which is kind of how, a lot of shit is enacted in the United States. All of these things, it's like, this is insufficient ultimately, and why we need programs like affirmative action programs and shit. And also, it says nothing to the fact that, a lot of schools are quote unquote naturally segregated because the country is so segregated. This is why you see kids of certain racial constitutions like getting shitty public schooling. Their public schools are not given any funding. Like how do we combat this kind of a thing? So if desegregation was defined too as the working towards more desegregated school populations on the whole, which this specifically says that it isn't, but if it was, then it would be constitutional to have like affirmative action programs at the federal level and shit, or to
Well,
mandate that states do it.
I feel like the opposite happened too because of like redlining and stuff. So they desegregated schools, but also I wonder if this coincided with the act of redlining. So they were,
Do I detect a southern accent?
yeah.
What state are you in?
Unfortunately, I'm from
Where?
Kentucky.
Oh shit,
my
really? Me
God.
too.
Awesome.
That's great. We got two Kentuckians. Yeah, and redlining. Can you define redlining for us? I think I know what it is, but maybe just for any of us who's not sure.
Yeah. I if it's okay, I'll just read this definition that I looked up.
Sure.
In the United States, redlining is the systematic denial of various services by federal government agencies, local governments, as well as the private sector, either directly or through the selective raising of prices.
Can you read that one more time? I was listening, but I need to hear it one more time. I'm thinking.
So it's the systematic denial of various services by federal government agencies, local governments, as well as the private sector, either directly or through selective raising of prices.
Okay.
So like they hold on.
Well, this would affect things like property prices, probably, right? Like, this would greatly influence the racial makeup of any area. Would that be
Property price.
redlining?
Yeah, and also like how much money certain schools get. I think it probably affected that as well.
Yeah.
I don't know, just a thought.
No, yeah, that's really relevant, and that's something you just tuned in. But Title 1 was about voting rights. We were talking about these things as well. You know, how economics greatly influences like the kinds of quality of voting polling stations certain places get, you know, especially now that things are moving to digital. One of the problems with the Georgia elections, aside from the exorbitant wait times that happened a few weeks ago, was that they were saying a lot of the voting machines just straight up weren't working, you know? So, like, who knows how that influenced the vote, whether or not people even got to have their vote counted, period, or like, I don't know how these machines work, but I know they don't work very well because an 11-year-old hacked one. So
Holy
it's
shit.
like, yeah, if an 11-year-old can hack one, I mean, who knows what kinds of manipulations people are doing to them. Maybe they're just straight up changing people's votes. And then I'm sure there also needs to be money for people to start some sort of investigation committee or something, you know. There's actually an investigation going into I don't know who initiated it, but they are launching an investigation into the problems that was going on with Georgia's vote 3 weeks ago. But I'm sure that
Okay.
requires a ton of money too, and who grants that money, you know? I don't know.
Yeah. And also just the voting times, transportation, the shutdown of various vote or polling places. Like there's so many ways to limit which people get to vote.
Right. And money is a huge part of all of this, you know? And this is what we were talking about as well, about how we talk so much about like the ethics of this or that law, what kinds of laws are reinstated to try to fight segregation and certain racist things. But without also tackling like the financial component, which is huge, you're going to still run into so many problems, you know? Because like with voting, like you're saying, I could think of so many financial obstacles to getting your vote in as well. Like maybe you can't afford daycare, maybe you can't afford the day off. Maybe you're straight up not allowed to take the day off. A lot of these places, they'll specifically like make the voting hours during work days. Like, why don't states have? It should be illegal to not be able to take off work to go vote. You know, like they
Sure.
should just make voting days like a state or national holiday. I don't know how the language would be, but they should just not, you shouldn't be allowed to work on that day. You got to go vote. Like, why do we all have to take off? Even the fucking post office is closed on President's Day. Why isn't it closed on voting day?
Right.
For sure.
It's fucked up. And I feel like we know why, you know? Like, there's so many obstacles. And then on top of this, we were talking too the past few times about how certain voting districts, the lines of them are drawn, even to overcome all of these financial obstacles and whatever. Then on top of that, you have people putting all of the black population in a respective state within their own, you know, voting districts, so that their vote only counts for so much when they're trying to get state representatives in and shit. It's all a bunch of
100%.
fucking fuckery. Ugh. Sorry, I'm having a cigarette, not at my computer. I'm gonna pull up the PDF
You're
on
fine.
here. I'm just, hold on. I'm gonna pull up the text on here too. My phone's plugged in again. So we just looked at the first four titles. Let's continue. Um, Title 1, Voting Rights. Title 2, Discrimination in Places of Public Education. Title 3 was, where is it? That's the one that we just looked at. Desegregation of public facilities. Title 4, Desegregation of Public Education. And then we have Title 5, Commission on Civil Rights. Um, so, so this starts with saying that there's an amendment being made to the Civil Rights Act of 1957. And I don't have that document in front of me, but I'm honestly not entirely sure. Yeah, maybe, or maybe the summary of the Civil Rights Act of 1957. This is an amendment to the Civil Rights Act of 1957 that has to do with the Commission on Civil Rights, which I believe is a federal group. See, I don't even fucking know. But the Commission on Civil Rights, I believe, is tasked with like overseeing certain civil rights violations, and so this Title V is basically outlining some sort of protocols for how the commission will operate. And yeah, it looks like this is improvements on the previous Civil Rights Act of 1957, which is 7 years prior. It also outlines the duties of the commission in Section 104 under this Title V. The commission shall investigate allegations in writing that's under oath or affirmation that certain citizens of the United States are being deprived of their right to vote, study and collect information concerning legal developments constituting. Was that someone talking? Oh, it sounds like it's just background noise. So the commission is tasked with investigating and collecting information regarding civil rights problems, violations, and all of this. So this is just kind of outlining protocol for how that commission will function, and maybe we'll look up that commission after and talk about that a little more. I'm trying to pick up the speed a little bit because I want to make sure that we get through this whole thing. Let's move on. That one's mostly like protocols for the commission. Title VI, non-discrimination in federally assisted programs. No person in the United States shall, on the ground of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. So this is like grants, loans, or other contracts. What does it, a federal assistance program would be a thing that's welfare, correct?
That's what it sounds like.
And is there also federal and state welfare? Because I believe that's true as well. Like, I mean, I've been on food stamps in a few states, and if I remember correctly, I went through like the state's program. Like, each state has like has a different name for its food stamp program, I believe. Maybe the individual states' welfare programs receive funding from the federal government. I'm sure it's a mix of both, you know. Like, are you by a computer, Tick?
No, I'm on my little phone. What's up?
Oh, I was gonna ask you to look something up. I want to know. Yeah,
I'll look
maybe.
up.
Yeah, is there federal welfare programs? I mean, it says federally assisted programs. Like, is welfare federal or state or both? Welfare, is it? Yeah. That's what we need to understand. Let's come back to that. I think we should go through maybe and then start to look at some of these questions too. Title
It looks
IX,
like
equal.
it's federally funded and state managed.
Interesting. So federal taxes go into welfare programs. That would make sense because we hear so many complaints from people like, my taxes are going to like food stamps and welfare and whatever, you know. I think that's true for all people. I believe the federal government is tasked with welfare programs, and like you said, state manages it. So I guess a certain amount of federal welfare money exists based on federal taxes and then is distributed to the states probably according to their need. Unless each state, yeah, that would be true because states are all different sizes and shit, you know. Yeah, and this is a debate that also goes on too when we talk about things like, you know, it's always like Midwesterners and Southerners complaining about like welfare and shit, and it's like, well, they're the states that receive the most of it.
Right.
Interesting. Okay, let's continue. Title 7, Equal Employment Opportunity. So it starts with defining what a person is and what an employer is. The term person includes one or more individuals, labor unions, partnerships, associations, corporations, legal representatives, mutual companies, joint stock companies, trusts, incorporated organizations, trustees in bankruptcy, or receivers. So a person is not just a person is also a company, which I believe is actually like something that came out of a Supreme Court ruling from the 19th century. I remember this vaguely from a history of law course that I took in college, where this was like a big deal, that like a corporation could also be defined as a singular entity and kind of has like the rights of a citizen,
Right.
which is crazy.
Fucking absolutely.
It also defines the term employer. The term employer means a person engaged in an industry affecting commerce who has 25 or more employees for each working day in each of 25 or more calendar weeks. Okay. So 25 or more employees makes you an employer. And also there's criteria for like how many days of the year that you operate in commerce and shit like this. It also defines the term employment agency, labor organization. Okay, let's look at what it actually says about discrimination. There's a section 703 titled Discrimination because of race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. And if I'm not mistaken, this is the first time in the Civil Rights Act document that sex is mentioned, or at least discrimination against sex is mentioned. So it says, it shall be an unlawful employment practice for an employer, number one, to fail or refuse to hire or to discharge any individual or otherwise to discriminate against any individual with respect to his compensation, terms, conditions, or privileges of employment because of such individual's race, color, religion, sex, or national origin, or two, to limit, segregate, or classify his employees in any way which would deprive or tend to deprive any individual of employment opportunities or otherwise adversely affect his status as an employment. Oh, sorry, my thing vibrated. To limit, segregate, or classify his employees in any way which would deprive or tend to deprive any individual of employment opportunities or otherwise adversely affect his status as an employee because of such individual's race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. Okay, so this is all pretty straightforward. I feel like this is the most firm language we've seen so far in all of these discrimination laws. It's pretty straightforward. You can't hire or fire somebody because of their race, religion, sex, or national origin, or to inhibit them in any way as an employee because of their sex, color, religion, national origin. Then it says, it shall be an unlawful employment practice for an employment agency to fail or refuse to refer for employment or otherwise discriminate against because of race, color, religion, sex, or national origin, or to classify or refer for employment any individual on the basis of race. So basically, you can't refer someone elsewhere either because of their race, because, these kinds of things happen a lot. I believe, if I'm understanding this correctly, like, oh, we're not going to hire you, but we'll refer you to this other place, or we'll hire you here, but like you'll be delegated to this specific area of our business because of your race. So basically, yeah, it's going through and saying that you can't discriminate in really most matters of employment based on race, color, religion, sex. And I wonder why they have firm language here, because it seems like they're being pretty inclusive. But then we have this section E, exceptions. Of course, there's going to be exceptions. Let's see what some of them are. Oh, and there's so many. Let's look at this. So Notwithstanding any other provision of this title, it shall not be an unlawful employment practice for an employer to hire and employ employees for an employment agency to classify. Oh God, this sentence. This is crazy. What's the exception? It shall not be unlawful. Okay. Hold on. Oh, okay. So one of the exceptions is that it's not discrimination if this public institution, it says a school, college, university, or other educational institution, um, is controlled or managed by a particular religion or by a particular religious corporation, association, or society, or if the curriculum of such school, college, university, or other educational institution or institution of learning is directed towards the propagation of a particular religion. See, right to religious freedom is definitely a thing that can become an obstacle to civil rights issues, because here I can think immediately of things like, I believe certain Jesuit colleges like don't allow females or something, you know. On the other hand, certain schools do allow for things like sex segregation, you know. There's all female schools. Are there all male schools? I think that there are.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Schools for
Yeah.
boys.
Yeah, and I wonder, so maybe that's only allowed if it's a religious institution?
Yeah, I think they have to be private schools.
And the difference between a private school and a public school would be that one receives no, like, federal assistance.
I think so, yeah.
So a private school is basically just a company.
I
But
think so.
we need to look too at like laws for education, because it's like, well, clearly even a private school still, like, is a bachelor's degree, does that hold any weight in the legal system? You know, because a public college can give you a bachelor's degree and so can a private college. But what determines whether a thing is like a bachelor's degree, you know? Like, what is a bachelor's degree? I have one, but like, what's the criteria, you know? I wonder,
Right.
like, who oversees this, because clearly private schools and public schools still have some sort of shared criteria for what becomes a degree and recognized as a degree, or even like a GED or something, you know.
I think
Like,
they get accredited by certain agencies.
and are these government agencies?
Oh, that I don't know.
God, everything just turns into a million fucking questions.
It really does.
Like, I feel like it's almost impossible. I was just reading an article about this because it was talking about how like our ability to comprehend everything going on in the news with so much going on, you know, like your brain kind of maxes out at a certain point and you just can't even like perceive the scope of what is happening. I feel like the same thing is true for law. Like, you could learn all of this shit, but like, how do you actually establish a cognitive picture of everything? Because it's just like, it just breaks off into infinite variables, you know? Like,
I feel like it's really important to listen to the people who actually have to navigate certain areas of the law that most of us aren't accustomed to. Like when people receive welfare, listening to the people that have to apply for it and have to go through that procedure to really realize, like, instead of just does that make sense?
yeah, absolutely, because that's the only way we're going to be able to see the failures of any of these laws, right? Like, if you're
Exactly.
not aware of what problems people are running into, then you're not going to know what problems exist within the system and how to fix them, you know? I feel like it's important to do both. Like, what we're trying to do with this series is try to like understand what is legislated, like what is the language of the law, and then you have to look, like you're saying, at what people are saying is the failures of these laws. And then if you're already familiar with the language of the law and the structure of it, then you'll be better equipped with how to fix it, you know.
For sure. It's definitely hard to navigate with this type of language, though.
Right. It's so inaccessible. I mean, we're all pretty smart people. And it's just like, on top of that, I mean, Edward was saying earlier, the guy who left, that, within this document, there's so much cross-referencing. It'll be like, so this is an amendment to the Civil Rights Act of 1957, section whatever. It's like, dude, just delete it and make a new fucking document. It's like you have
Yeah.
to have all these documents in front of you and like have like crazy notes like, okay, cross this out. Now this document from 7 years later, now this amendment, it goes here. Like, just fucking have one Civil Rights Act and continuously update it. Because right now we have like 10 Civil Rights Acts, and it seems like, this one is already building on the previous ones and just
Yeah.
adding addendums and shit. It's like, just fucking copy paste that one in here too or something. Have one comprehensive document. And like we were saying earlier too, this is why the U.S. Civil Code, or I think U.S. Legal Code, I forget the name of it, it's just a collection of thousands and thousands of laws that are basically, I think that it's just kind of summaries of like each law that's passed. Every time there's a new law passed, it's like it's just added to this list where there's like now thousands. Like, nobody's going to read this entire thing. I actually looked it up and it says that nobody knows exactly how many laws are in the US legal code.
Oh my god.
What?
I think
Literally
it's
nobody?
because nobody, and I
What
think
the
it's
fuck?
because the legal code does things like kind of probably lumps laws together. Because like as we're reading this language, it's like, okay, you can't do this, this, or that. So it's like, is this 3 laws or 1 law? I don't think they even came up with a classification system to be like, this is a law, this is a law, this is a law.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so many on top of it, like I think too, because as we've been learning, like the only way to, I think it depends on what kind of legal document we're working with, but oftentimes the only way to eradicate a previous law is to create a new one that overturns the previous law. So I think that that's probably another reason why they don't have tracking of how many laws there are, because I'm sure that some of the new laws negate the previous laws, so that one should probably not be counted, but no one's doing the work of actually, categorizing all of these things in a meaningful and easy to access way.
Jeez.
Yeah.
This hurts my brain.
Right. It's so complicated. It's insane. Like, the more we've been learning, the more I've been feeling like, dude, I feel like so many things could be legal or illegal depending on how smart your lawyer is. You could probably prove that anything is legal or illegal if you do the work of going through like the code and finding the right thing. And this is why like lawyers is seen as like slimy people and stuff and good at finding loopholes. Like, if you have a good lawyer, they'll be able to basically like make a convincing argument based on like exploiting all of these various loopholes or the language of a thing. Like, it doesn't seem like the law is even really this fixed entity. It's more of just like how good of a case can you make of some like interpretation of it that serves your needs.
For sure. And also how much money you have to be able to even go to court or have a good lawyer that can do this.
Right, or have an education to be able to parse through this. I mean, like, I'm college educated, and 10 minutes ago I just found out what the Attorney General is. Like,
Can you
education too
fill
is a
me in?
thing. Oh, I forget already. No, it's a member of cabinet who's basically like a law expert slash advisor and the head of the Department of Justice, which is a executive branch institution. It oversees the administration of law, because the executive branch, which is the president, the Department of Justice, the job of the executive branch is to enforce the law. So the attorney general is like the main lawyer of the federal government, and like he's tasked with overseeing certain complaints, deciding whether or not they have merit, because the attorney general came up when we were reading about, what was it? It was talking about how you can file a complaint if you believe that you've been discriminated on the basis of race. You file a complaint with the attorney general, and the attorney general then decides whether or not it has merit, which we were saying is a really bad vagary that probably can be exploited, because it says that the attorney general has the right to decide whether or not your complaint has any merit.
Wow.
So if he's just some racist asshole, of course he's going to tell you that it doesn't have any fucking merit. Like, I wonder if there's any sort of protocol to follow for when you feel like the attorney general has made a mistake.
For sure.
I'm sure there is, and I'm sure that document is like 100 pages long too. It makes no fucking sense, and it has a million exceptions.
That happens so often in like Indian country, on like the reservation.
Yeah?
Yeah,
In what way?
because they just decide that, oh well, this case isn't really worth us following up or whatever. Part of the reason why there are so many missing and murdered Indigenous women, because there are so many different jurisdictions and there's like so much layering that it takes so long to figure out, oh, this person's in charge. So then they go to the attorney general, because usually that's who's in charge, and they're like, nah, we're not gonna deal with this. That happens so often.
Wow.
Right. And that's something we should definitely cover in this series as well, because this is really crazy, like laws about Indian reservations and shit. I remember there was a Supreme Court case not long ago. I don't know, maybe it's still in progress, but it had something to do with a murder on I think on a reservation, and the state, I believe, didn't press charges because it was outside of their jurisdiction. Like oftentimes it seems like Native American communities are basically left to fend for their own, and it's so fucked up because like it's the premise of this is like, oh, we're giving you guys jurisdiction because we concede that we fucking stole your land. So here, you can have your own land and we have no jurisdiction over it, but you're basically just leaving them to fend for them fucking selves.
Yeah, but even with that too, it's like there's a cap. If it falls under tribal jurisdiction, there's a cap on how hard they can actually come for you. Like, I think it's only 5 years is like the maximum that they can put you away.
That's crazy. And it's so complicated because, yeah, on the one hand, it seems almost like a good thing, and from a certain understanding, like, okay, it's good, we're going to give natives like their own jurisdiction over certain things, but then at the same time, we're going to deprive them of resources and, you know, do all this other fuck shit to them after like completely genociding them and leave them with no protections, you know. And like you're saying, you know, the rate of Indigenous women, I think that they have the highest rates of missing women, period, and also of rapes.
I think so, yeah.
They do.
And then also of criminalization. Like a lot of them are in prison. They represent a crazy high percentage for their population, of the female prison population, you know. So it's like, we're gonna not give a fuck about you and quote unquote let you do what you want for certain things, but then at the same time you're beholden to our criminal laws and we're gonna criminalize you and throw you in jail for this or that too, you know. We're just gonna fuck you over, basically. It's so fucked.
Yeah, absolutely.
We should definitely read some of that too. Gotta write that down. There's just so much to read. We could just read forever and we'll still like be stupid, but we're getting a little less stupid, so that's good. Okay, so this title that we were just looking, or wait, no, let's see. Hold on. We just looked at title. I'm on my phone, sorry, scrolling. Title, the exemptions, shit. Title 7, yeah, equal employment opportunity. This one is so long. It goes from multiple pages, covers random unlawful employment practices, yeah, it says things like you can't grant preferential treatment, which kind of in line with what we were just saying, sounds like a good thing, but could also be seen as a bad thing, because I feel like a lot of this language too is trying to be like we saw in the desegregation of public school facilities one, it's specifying that like just because we desegregate or segregation is unconstitutional doesn't mean that we're going to actively work towards desegregation, you know. I feel like that's some of the language in this employment one too. Like, you can't be granted preferential treatment on the basis of your race or whatever, which is like, well, why would you say that? Like, it seems like almost like a built-in protection for like white people, you know.
Mm-hmm.
This one's really long, which not surprised, because as companies are also people, don't want to piss them off. Make sure that they still can't be taken to court for being racist. Gotta throw a bone to the racist. Yeah, this one is so long. Let's go now to Title 8, which is incredibly short. Registration and voting statistics, Section 801. The Secretary of Commerce, whoever the fuck that is, who's this now? Like, god damn it.
I'm
Someone look
guessing
up the
it's whoever
Secretary of
oversees.
Commerce while I read this.
I'm okay. I'll look it up.
Look it up, please. The Secretary of Commerce, this fucking asshole, shall promptly conduct a survey to compile registration and voting statistics. I like that word promptly. Promptly. Quickly now. Shall promptly conduct a survey to compile registration and voting statistics in such geographic areas as may be recommended by the Commission on Civil Rights. Okay, so this seems like it's trying to be like, well, let me read the next sentence. Such a survey and compilation shall, to the extent recommended by the Commission on Civil Rights, only include account of persons of voting age by race, color, and national origin, and determination of the extent to which such persons are registered to vote and have voted in any statewide primary or general election, yada yada.
Okay, also,
Such
the Commerce Secretary is responsible for representing U.S. businesses within the President's cabinet, interacting with communities, businesses, universities, American workers, promoting economic growth, job creation, and a balanced economic development.
That's
They
so
just oversee
interesting that
spending.
this person is tasked in with voting registration. Like, what does that have to do with commerce? You know?
Yeah, that's weird.
We should reach out to the guy who does the PBS Crash Course series and ask him if he'll just come
Right.
here and answer our questions. Like, we need a
Like,
lawyer here or like a U.S. law expert.
We'll get him to like come to a meeting.
This also says here, here's another exception. Let's see. The provisions of Section 9 and Chapter 7 of Title 13 United States Code, and the United States Code is the one, by the way, that's so long that we're just talking about, over 1,000. It might be, I think it's over 1,000, but they're not sure exactly how many laws shall apply to any survey, collection, or compilation of registration and voting statistics carried out under this title, provided, however, that no person shall be compelled to disclose his race, color, national origin, or question about his political party affiliation, how he voted, or the reasons therefor, nor shall any penalty be imposed for his failure or refusal to make such disclosure. So that's interesting too, because it's like, okay, we're going to give the Civil Rights Commission this responsibility of tracking race and its influence on voting registration populations. At the same time, you are not compelled to provide this information, which benefits who, you know? If we're trying to do things like understand the racial makeup of voting registration populations, then, you know, you're also saying that it's not necessary. I could see how, like, making it illegal to have to disclose your race on, like, employment applications would be a really good thing that would serve racial minorities in America. But not having to disclose your race for voting statistics, I don't know. What do you guys think? I'm trying to think, like, would that be beneficial to anyone that's not a white person?
Yes, I
If
think it would.
I have something to say.
yes, please say it.
When it comes to the job application, a lot of it is like in your name, where you live, where you went to school, where they just deduce what you are.
Yeah, that's
So
true too.
doing the, oh, I'm black, I'm this, I'm that, like the, what's that thing called? Every time I fill out an application, they're like, oh, if you wanna tell us, let us know. And I'm like, okay. Yeah, but it's a lot of ways that it gets found out, and like it's why my name is the way my name is Shannon, because it sounds white.
Mm-hmm.
Like on paper, like reading my name is like, oh, just a white girl, whatever.
Are
That's
you
how you
saying
get
that?
in.
Are you
Yeah.
saying that your parents gave you that name for this purpose?
They also liked it and they liked how it sounded, but my mom did say that like she made sure all her kids' names are like they sound good.
Oh wow, yeah.
That's so sad. I mean, Shannon is such a cute name, but yeah, that's so fucked up. That's not something people should have to be thinking about, you know. Give my
Right.
kid a whiter sounder name so that she won't face, or she'll have a better chance, you know. I was reading, like, I follow the Black Ladies Forum on Reddit, and it was so sad. Like, they were talking about this recently about on LinkedIn, they were asking each other for advice, like, should I upload my photo? Because I want to get a job interview, you know. Like, I don't
Right.
want them to know from my picture that I'm black, you know, so that maybe I can at least get one foot in the door, even if, you know, next thing you're at the actual interview, and then they see you're black, you know. But they were asking each other for advice, like if it's better or not better, you know. It's like, man, this should not be something people have to fucking deal with. But of course it
Right.
is, especially because, you know, no matter how much the Civil Rights Act and this one and other civil rights acts try to, or purport to try to, work against employment discrimination and shit, at the end of the day, like, most of the time you cannot prove if someone's being racist. Like people or not usually, but a lot of people are never going to vocalize like, oh, we don't hire black people, you know. Even before this shit, a lot of people will not say that outright, but at the same
They
time it's a
also
wonder
probably
how many
don't know
people
that.
will. Don't know what.
They don't know that they won't. Like they don't think they're racist. They just like, oh, I just happen to like hire a lot of white people because that's the one who happens to be best at the job. Blah blah blah.
Right.
It's
Right.
like they don't know, so they're not gonna say like, oh, I will never hire a black person.
Right.
And
Most racist
there's a
people
lot
don't
of
think they're racist.
implicit bias, like always, with literally everything.
Mm-hmm.
So that is not a means of like, are you prejudiced or not? I don't think. But there is always an implicit bias.
Right, definitely.
Absolutely, and that's part of why, you know, these kinds of acts, like, they help, because it's also a wonder at the same time how many people really do explicitly say, like, we don't hire black people, and now that's not allowed. And even now people will get caught saying these sorts of things, and then you'll have a case, you know.
Hmm.
But like, it's like these kinds of things ultimately will be insufficient, and it's disappointing that they're specifying things like, we're not going to, this doesn't mean we're going to have any sort of affirmative action type initiatives, because I think that these types of initiatives are totally necessary for the reasons that you're saying, Shannon, you know, because people do have implicit bias. I mean, liberals are just as fucking racist as conservatives. They're just the I don't see color type of people, you know. They think that they don't have any bias, but like you're saying, everybody, there's implicit bias everywhere, you know. So we do need to have affirmative action type programs in employment, in schooling, in, like, you know, the distribution of public school communities. Like, you can't just like create safeguards against racism, because most of the time racism is not overt, you know. It's more hidden. And this is part of what Angela Davis was talking about in our last reading. You know, racism just goes more and more underground. So unless you're actively trying to root it out, protections against it will really be insufficient. But hey, that's why we're trying to get smart. All right. So that was incredibly short. Don't know why the Secretary of Commerce is tasked with doing this. Are you guys there?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, just checking.
I'm present.
Woo! Is that Bash?
Yes.
I heard that accent.
Yeah, it's me.
We should read the Scottish Constitution one day too. I'm interested.
Hell
Okay.
yeah.
I don't know if we have one. I'm not really that read up on it because our thing is put down to Westminster and it's usually circulated by them. So even having our own government and being allowed to have our own government, it has to be ratified through another government that we don't have a say in, even though, say, most of Scotland voted for Scottish National Party as a complete thing. We still don't have a say in who the person in charge is that we get, which isn't right. Like for the
Sounds
whole
like
country.
us.
Yep.
Crazy.
Yep.
Hold on, I just noticed that even though my phone's been plugged in, it's starting to die. So let me turn down my brightness. If I disappear, then I think we might be fucked, actually. So
I'm gonna have to go in a few minutes actually to charge mine too, because
oh, okay.
it's been a pain in the ass lately. But
I just turned my brightness all the way down, so I should be here. But if you disappear, Chick, goodbye in advance.
thank you. I would just continue on my laptop, but the fucking microphone is broken. But I might pop it.
Plug it in. It's all right. We're almost
well,
till 11.
Well, yeah. Sorry, I'll let you guys. It's just my freaking. I lost a little thing that lets it go into the wall. So I'm having to charge it on my laptop, which is super inefficient because my laptop is broken. And it's just a whole shit show. I've been teetering around 11% all day.
Oh God. Well, I'm at 10 right now, so let's just at least make sure we get till title 11.
Totally.
So we have an overview of everything. All right, so Title 9. This is the one that is... No. Yeah, Title 9 of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Okay, let's see. Intervention and procedure after removal in civil rights cases. So this is an amendment to Title 28 of the United States Code, which I'm not even sure what that is, but the amendment reads this. An order remanding a case to the state court from which it was removed is not reviewable on appeal or otherwise, except that an order remanding a case to the state court from which it was removed pursuant to section 1443 of this title shall be reviewable by appeal or otherwise. Okay. Let me read this next sentence. This one's incredibly short, too. Whenever an action has been commenced in any court of the United States seeking relief from the denial of equal protection of the laws under the 14th Amendment to the Constitution on account of race, color, religion, or national origin, the Attorney General for or in the name of the United States may intervene in such action upon timely application if the Attorney General certifies that the case is of general public importance. So this one kind of seems like lip service, and also just like it's like an amendment to protocol for basically what we were just inquiring into a moment ago. What happens if you feel like a civil rights case that you've brought up is being ignored or something? You could take this to the Attorney General, I suppose. So, okay. Title 10, Establishment of Community Relations Service. This is section 1001. There is hereby established in and as a part of the Department of Commerce a community relations service, which shall be headed by a director who shall be appointed by the president with the advice and consent of the Senate for a term of 4 years. The director is authorized to appoint, subject to the civil service laws and regulations, such other personnel as may be necessary to enable the service to carry out its functions and duties and to fix their compensation in accordance with the Classification Act of 1949 as amendment. Okay, so this is establishing a community relations service. And what the service does is outlined in section 1002. It shall be the function of the service to provide assistance to communities and persons therein in resolving disputes, disagreements, or difficulties relating to discriminatory practices based on race, color, or national origin, which impair the rights of persons in such communities under the Constitution or laws of the United States, or which affect or may affect interstate commerce. So basically, this service exists to provide assistance, like it says, to various disputes regarding civil rights cases. So I'm guessing, I'm not sure, but I'm guessing that this is a new service. It talked about the Civil Rights Commission in an earlier title, and this one is establishing a community relations service. So almost like a help center, I would guess, for how to proceed with various things. I really don't know. All right, let's look at this last one. Title 11, miscellaneous. In any proceeding for criminal contempt arising under Title 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 of this Act, the accused, upon demand therefore, shall be entitled to a trial by jury, which shall conform as near as may be to the practice in criminal cases. So I wonder if this is something relating to prosecuting for what you might call a hate crime. I'm not totally sure, but it's speaking to criminal acts that have to do with these titles. That's interesting. I don't know.
But
No person.
there,
Hold
but
on. Let me
being
just read this. No person shall be convicted of criminal contempt hereunder unless the act or omission constituting such contempt shall have been intentional, as required in other cases of criminal contempt. Wow, what an exception to include. It has to be intentional. Which, like Shannon was saying, you know, rarely acts of racial discrimination are said to be intentional. People often make arguments that things aren't intentional. Interesting. Gotta look at that again. I didn't even get to read this as thoroughly as I wanted to. I want to read this whole thing again. It's a lot to take in. What were you just gonna say, Bash?
the language used is quite. I'm struggling with it.
Me as well. I mean, a lot of it reads as legal jargon, and like we've been saying in here together, you know, like so much of it is cross-referencing other documents that, you know, aren't included. You have to be looking at 10 documents at the same time to see, okay, this amendment to the Civil Rights Act of 1957 and this and that, and refer to the Attorney General and the Secretary of Commerce, and this one has this power. And there's exceptions included for like every title. It's a lot of fuckery.
So there's a lot of kind of hoops to jump through and stuff like that. Not hoops to jump through, but things to jump over to actually see and get the meaning behind it.
Yeah, like we've been saying, you know, it's like you have to like become an expert really in all of these various things to even be able to have some sort of coherent, workable picture of the structure of all of this shit. Because, you know, like this document, this act is also predicated on certain constitutional amendments. It's like, okay, Congress has the power to enforce this act because it has the power of commerce, it has the power of the 14th Amendment. It's like everything is referencing something else. And it's just this incredible like spider web of cross-referencing and shit, which is, yeah, I mean, it's so convoluted.
Do you think that's done in a way just to confuse people so that they can't find implicit bias or bring up things easily?
Well, like we were talking about earlier, I don't know how much of this is straight up intentional. I think a lot of it has to do with general incompetence and laziness, especially for an issue like this of civil rights, you know, because I think that the people legislating these kinds of things aren't necessarily hyper vigilant about how well structured these kinds of documents are. I think that they're creating loopholes on purpose, absolutely, and you could see that in this document alone. There's so many exceptions. The language is so peculiar in certain places where it seems like, you know, they're trying to create exceptions to everything and really protect racist people. It seems like this, you know, like But I think on the whole, a lot of it is just we're working within such a poor structure. Like, we read the Constitution and have been discussing it the past 2 weeks. And the Constitution we were talking about before you got here is a document that's structured in a specific way because it was accounting for all these pre-existing variables. Like, we have all these different states with competing interests. There's all these competing financial interests. We just need a federal government to kind of tie it all together. So it's not like this is some well-composed or thought out government from the jump. It's more like this is our best attempt at making what we have currently work. So, like, of course, if that's your starting platform for the entire US government, then everything that follows from it will be equally as complicated and poorly structured.
And convoluted. Convoluted.
Absolutely. And my phone is continuing to die even though I put my brightness low. So let's have some concluding general thoughts. Like, what are you guys thinking about having read this act of Congress or just talked about it? Like, what are some ideas?
I think it does kind of, as we talked about in a lot of ways, a lot of it does kind of feel very just like we're doing this because we have to, and we're not going to put as much thought into it, into applying it as we should. We're just going to do it because we're in the hot seat and, you know, we want to get out of it. And I think it kind of is reminiscent of a lot of kind of changes we're seeing be proposed today, in that, you know, they kind of miss the grand point and aren't really set up with the amount of vigilance as they should be.
Right. And this is like, it makes me think of the first reading we did by Lorenzo Comboa Irvin, where he's talking about how, you know, there's two approaches people can take to trying to work towards Black liberation. You can work within the system that we have, which is this incredibly convoluted, poorly structured legal system, or we can work towards more radical outcomes, you know. And he says that both are possible. And this is an example of working within the system, you know. It's undeniable that certain ones were made here, you know, and the Civil Rights Act of 1964 has greatly improved certain policies and protocols, or at least for certain individual people. But obviously the problem persists, and reading the document, it's not hard to see why, you know. And the problem persists, I mean, in all of these areas that the document purports to be like benefiting, you know, employment discrimination, voting discrimination. It only really tackles it pays minor concessions to the Black community, really. It's not some major win. So yeah, it's interesting, like, thinking about how best to strategize, because like you were just saying, you know, all of these current propositions being made too seem like more of this kind of a thing, you know, like minor concessions, complicated legal language and cross-referencing. Like, it's a really hard problem. I don't know, what else are people thinking? And sorry again that I was not super prepared for this one. I'm just trying to come back after a little break. We need to get back into vigilance. Yeah, our first two discussions were great. I mean, this one was not as great. There weren't as many people, but I promise the next one will be better. I think it's just important that we're reading this stuff too. This is the first time I've ever read an act, period. So just familiarizing ourselves with the language of these things, you know, like what is an act of Congress and what does it look like? Just reading one, I think, is really insightful, even if I haven't fully digested it yet.
Definitely.
What about, to speak of what's going on now, does anybody have any information, news about what kinds of things have been proposed or passed in the past few weeks? Because we have seen a lot of new laws and acts be talked about being proposed. Haven't checked in the past week about what has gone further underway. Does anyone have any news to report? I think in New York, they're talking about banning chokeholds. I'm not sure if that got passed yet.
I've
They were
seen that.
talking about that also being a thing instilled at the federal level, and also trying to override the immunity clause, I believe it's called qualified immunity, which was established by a Supreme Court ruling, where I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I'm not looking at it right now, but I believe what that is that police officers have this sort of qualified immunity where they don't need to be prosecuted for certain things unless you can prove that they were directly violating a constitutional right. And it's not even a constitutional right to life or to liberty. So, policemen can just get away.
Well,
Even
I'm
killing someone is not a violation of their constitutional rights.
looking at something just now. I just googled the anti-chokehold in New York, and New York State Assembly on Monday passed the Garner Anti-Chokehold Act, and that is June 8th.
Oh, okay. So it did get passed.
And that's for Eric Garner, who was killed in 2014.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
The
Well,
use of
I mean,
chokeholds had already been banned by the NYPD. The use of chokeholds by the NYPD had already been banned in 1993, so they were still using them. And this man was killed in 2014, and they're still having to pass things to say, do not do this. And they're still being used. So, what kind of thing does this happen when it's banned in 1993? This person is killed in 2014, and they're still having to re-ban it in 2020.
right. And actually, now that
Seriously.
you say that, I remember that I think what's being proposed now, or maybe just passed, is that there'll actually be penalties for chokeholds. Because before, it's like you could ban a chokehold, but if you don't actually penalize when people do it anyway, then of course people will continue to do it. And this is all part
Punishable.
of what we're saying. If you're not vigilant about like weeding out bad behavior and racism and whatever, then of course it will persist. If there's no
Right.
consequence, then people are just gonna do it.
The bill would make it so that police officer who injures or kills somebody through the use of a chokehold or similar restraint can be charged with a Class C felony, punishable by up to 15 years in prison.
Up to 15.
Up to 15 years.
Wow.
That's the max.
That is
15
the maximum,
years.
15 years. So you could say someone might get 5 and be out in 2, you know?
Right. Or even less.
Yeah.
15 years maximum, that's a joke. And do you see isn't there, I saw that there's like a monetary fine as well, I believe they were saying.
Or
Yeah, it's more like minor concessions, because it's like, okay, so if you're a cop and you put a chokehold on someone, first of all, if they don't die, it's doubtful that you'll even be penalized still with this new passing,
Mhm.
or maybe slightly more so. But if they do die, then it's like, well, how are you going to account for the fact that judges are all buddy-buddy with the cops and shit, like,
Right.
and the public has bias as well, like,
Sounds like a strong suggestion, if anything.
right. Who said that? My green thing isn't lighting up for people.
Oh, it's me, DJ Too Thick.
Hey, DJ Toothack, welcome. Are you driving?
I am, yeah. I'm about to be home. I've never spoken before, but hello, and I appreciate you guys for doing these.
Good
Hey,
to hear
well,
your
hello,
voice.
welcome. What
I
state are you
recognize
in?
your little name.
I'm in California, LA, so I'm in the middle of it, of it all.
Oh, shit. How's it going over there?
Horrible.
Are the
Yesterday
protests still going on?
yesterday night sounded like Baghdad or something. It was insane.
But that's just fireworks, right?
Yeah, no, but I mean, I grew up here, so it's never been to that extent. Like, it was relentless.
Right.
I feel like fireworks are being used as an act of catharsis right now for like multiple reasons. Like people are just going ham with the fireworks this year because they're just so fucking frustrated.
My
Right.
friend,
As to the thing about chokeholds, I cannot see anything about a monetary thing, but I'm seeing a lot of news of NYPD cops being suspended without pay for apparent chokeholding man. I do not see anything about any monetary payout, etc.
They should be fucking fired. Suspended without pay, that's a great improvement, you know, but for how long? Like, uh, this shit is just, I don't know. I'm worried because I don't know how you guys feel, but I mean, I feel like I'm guilty of this as well. I feel like now that it's not so much in the news, it's already starting to wind down with protest coverage. We're going back to COVID coverage. People are starting to not talk about these things as much, and it's really troublesome, and we need to stay vigilant, especially because, like, think about what kind of a backlash is going to happen to the Black community in particular. Cops have been, like,
Absolutely.
fucking out here, like, crying and being like, I hate everybody. Like, cops are so mad right now, and that's part of why, even with the spotlight on them, they're still beating the fuck out of protesters and shit, you know? Once the spotlight goes away, like, they are going to be looking for fucking revenge. Like, we
Like that fucking,
cannot.
oh my god, that video of that woman fucking crying in the McDonald's parking lot. Like, it took too long to get my order, so I told them not even to bother. I'm so scared they're just gonna poison it. Girl, it's the fucking breakfast brush. Like, it happens every morning. Oh my god. Fucking,
What? I didn't even see that.
oh my god, it was this cop, and she was like, she posted this like sobbing fucking Instagram rant or something because it took too long to get her McDonald's in the morning. So she was afraid for her life. She was like, "It's because they're gonna poison me or something." Like,
Oh
no,
my
it's fucking 8 in the
god.
morning. People are getting breakfast. It's the fucking breakfast rush. Like, it happens every day. It's just so like the just horrible, like, entitled, whiny way that the police are fucking handling this is just, it just makes me sick to my stomach to see just like how fucking thick-headed and unempathetic they are to the harm they're causing and the death they're causing, and it's just like,
yeah,
I don't know.
I think that was right before it came out that the cops were lying about the Shake Shack milkshakes.
Yes. Oh my god,
Yeah.
yes.
What?
Oh my god.
Yeah, they did like
Cops
an
are lying about
investigation.
milkshakes?
Yeah, so Shake Shack, they said it tasted funny and they like threw them away, and then they like were throwing up or some shit. But then it turns out that they were just lying, like literally lying about it.
Yeah, they were
What
like,
the
Shake Shack
fuck?
poisoned us because we're cops. And Shake Shack was like, first of all, there's literally no way we could have known that this was an order for police officers. Like, there's no fucking way we could have known that. You just like ordered a large order and like all this shit. And like, it was just like turned out to be total bullshit. I think that happened with there was like another thing recently with cops like pretending that someone had done something to their food and it was bullshit.
It takes you back to is it a year ago or so or last year, where the cops were going to Starbucks and they said they kept getting cups with what said pig on it, like the barista
Yeah.
would write pig.
That one.
That was total bullshit too.
Yeah, just like the victim complex is so gross and just like, not, I hate to even say gross because I know that's such a like oversimplification, but it's just so like greasy and just like, it just makes you sick to know that they're just so fucking self-centered and unempathetic and like evil. It's just so evil. I don't know. It's just so fucked up.
Right. I feel like cops are already like emotionally disturbed people, you
Yeah.
know? And I'm really worried for when, I mean, the spotlight is already decreasing on them. Like, I feel like it's people's responsibility to, you know, especially, I mean, it's white people's responsibility. They're the ones who, a lot of them turned out in large numbers, which is great, you know. But now that the news has moved on to the next thing and stuff, like, it's our responsibility to make sure that the spotlight doesn't go away, especially because of this variable. Because I think that the police community is so angry right now, probably more than ever. They're these self-entitled fucking assholes. Like, they are absolutely going to be policing with a fucking vengeance moving forward.
You guys ever
Like,
gone? Have you guys ever gone onto those police forums?
Oh my god, I did the other day, and I
No.
about fucking threw up. It was so. Oh my god!
I haven't done it yet, but I'm scared.
I was on. Yeah,
Where
I was
are
on
they?
I was
I'm
on one
sure
on
if you,
Reddit the other day. There was one on
yeah, I'm
Reddit.
sure if you Google like police forums, there's like, where they just talk their shit.
What's the one you
Yeah,
saw,
there's.
Tick?
I think I looked at a couple. It was here. It was. Let me look up. It was just some fucking like our police, and there was like one other our something. Protect. Our protect and serve.
Ugh.
It was just so fucking like. Don't they know how tired we are? Don't they know how? Oh, it was so. It was just. I mean, it just makes you sick. It really makes you sick.
It's really just, it's scary. Like, the levels of sociopathy are just through the roof. Like, they're literally the people out here witnessing, even the ones who don't do it personally, witnessing their coworkers murder people, beat people up, all this shit, and they still don't see how there's a fucking problem. I think this is
Exactly.
part of why, fuck the police is the sentiment, because it's like, you would think by now there would at least be one organization of like cops against police brutality, something. Like there should be some cops speaking out against this. You see
No,
certain individual commissioners say this or whatever to pay lip service to the public only when things
People
like
get
this
fired
happen.
so fast.
yeah, you speak up, you get fired. Like
Yeah,
that's
Somebody around here just got fired because they posted on their personal Instagram a picture of their niece at a protest. Didn't have any comments on it or anything. Then they got a slap on the wrist for it, but was told, hey, take that down. Took it down, was made to make like a huge apology post on Facebook. Then they had her be a part of this huge picture to like prove, oh yeah, no, we're inclusive and we're okay. Right after that, she was fired.
Wow. And
it
not
was
only
all.
being fired, but being the subject of like some fucked up corrupt police shit as well. Like there's
Yeah.
cops, I know a cop who, I don't even know I should say this, maybe I'll delete it. But I know a cop who he got into trouble with his local like department or something. And like the cops like pressed him for drug shit and stuff. Like he got fired and like I don't know if they planted shit or what. I shouldn't be talking about this, but like it's like a friend of the family. But like this kind of shit happens too. Like you might be scared of getting killed yourself or something. Not to be like, oh, I mean, I
Yeah.
don't really feel sorry for these people because I think a lot of them knew what they were signing up for. But it's also true that I think certain people do try to become police officers because they're naive, they're uneducated, they might be one of these I don't see color people, and the cops aren't that bad. I'm going to help better my community. And then they get in there and see the atrocities that the police department is committing, and then they're like, oh shit. Like it's not just like fear of being fired. I think it's fear of being executed or people planting drugs on you,
I
all
feel
of
like
Yeah.
this
it's
other
also.
shit.
I feel like it's one of those things. Like a lot of jobs. I mean, I feel like when you're in any job, there are things you get desensitized to. Like this is a totally. I mean, when I first started working at Burger King, I was fucking Miss Cleanliness, but over time I became desensitized. And obviously those are two wildly different situations, but I feel like when you join any career, I mean it's the same kind of thing you hear from people who are are working in the prison complex, people who are working in psychiatric hospitals, is they see abuse and they just start to become desensitized to it until they find themselves participating in it. Like even if you go into this position with the most shining intentions and you really do just want to better your community, it's just not an option. It's just not built that way. It's just you
Yeah.
are
It's
in
like
a system that is
thing.
designed to desensitize you, to push you to cause that violence, or at least to cover it up. Like there's just no way to be a good cop when the entire system of police is inherently bad.
Keep in
Hmm.
mind, have that warrior training where they're
Yes.
taught to think of themselves as like predators and everybody else as prey.
Yeah.
yeah, that's a big one. I had a family friend who recently applied to LAPD. Great guy, he's really good because his family just about his shit. So he said when they were interviewing him, two cops, and then there was like a mediator type person for some reason. And then the cops were like the first question they asked him was, "Can you fight?" And he was kind of taken aback, like, what do you mean? I mean, yeah, I can fight, if I have to, blah blah blah. But the way they were talking to him, it was just like real thuggish, like, but can you fight though, so it was
Yeah.
real, like, from the start. That's kind of how it goes, it seems like.
Right.
There's
And
definitely a
he never
culture of
got the job, so.
machismo.
Here in
There's
Scotland,
definitely
I've
a
got a friend.
machismo culture in policing. Sorry, go ahead.
I've got a friend who was an ex-police officer, and she told me about how bad it is in Edinburgh, about the things under the table, the things that go that are not talked about, and if you say anything against them, they will drag you under. You'll still be on the job, but you'll be put on certain shifts that you do not want to work, and everything like that. They'll make your life a living hell, even if you're in the job. Just because if you speak out, then you're not one of them. You're going against your
Right.
own, and that's bullshit. Because if you're there to protect people, you should be there to protect people, not just those who, like, not if you see something wrong, that is wrong morally. If someone's getting beat, you need to stop that. And for someone else to say, no, this is right, they're not seeing the full picture at all. If you've got someone standing in someone's neck, God forbid, again, that is wrong. That is inherently wrong. Someone should stop that. And people standing by idly and not saying, you need to step back and assess the situation logically. This is doing more harm than it is good, and you need to stop and think about what you're doing.
Yeah,
And a lot of people don't have that critical thinking modality of actually getting a situation in the full spectrum, because it might hurt someone more than it is helping them.
Yeah, they need a system where they can check each other, like really step in when they see one of their peers doing something wrong. But I don't see that happening now.
Yeah, and I think that we need more than that, because we talk about it as if like it's some sort of cultural issue or social issue, and it is on a certain level. Like all of this shit makes me think of like the Stanford prison experiment, which was turned out to be like some sort of like not hoax, but was like not what it presents as, where a certain part of these participants were the police officers and then the rest were like inmates, and they started to be incredibly violent to each other really quickly, like the people in the cop position or whatever, like were abusing the other students and shit like this. But I think it's true for everything, like, and this is why the problem exists in Scotland just as it exists in America, that you give people power unchecked and they're going to abuse it no matter what the position of power is.
That's like speaking
So
on the Stanford experiment. What we're talking about, I believe, is the fact that a lot of people, and I believe the researchers at the time interpreted it as, if you give people power, it will corrupt them. When in actuality, what happened was they put out a position that attracted the kind of people who would want to spend all week playing prison guard and having that control, which I think really even like illustrates the issue even further than their original findings. Is that you're putting out this job that attracts people who want a degree of unchecked control,
that's so true, and that's part of why we talked about it a little bit, but I think there needs to be more serious consideration given to the idea that, like, maybe cops should not be paid. I mean, I don't believe they should be paid, but if you had something like volunteers, that would at least help combat this attitude a lot of cops have of like, well, think about us. I'm putting my life on the line. Is it not my right to say to worry about myself? Like, imagine if firefighters had this kind of attitude of entitlement. Like, what? I'm gonna risk my life. Like, yeah, you signed up to be a fucking firefighter, and they're mostly unpaid volunteers. I think the same should be true for cops. People who want to risk their life in service to their community should be the only people on these positions, not people who are paid to do it, because then the attitude becomes like, oh, well, this is just my job and I'm entitled to protect my own life over the rights of the lives of other citizens and shit. Like, no, it should, if you're really here to serve, then you should come second. So yes, you're going to risk your life. And if someone's shooting at you, it's your job to disarm them without shooting them back or something, you know?
One thing that I found really interesting about the Stanford prison experiment was the use of mirrored sunglasses, so to prevent eye contact from the guard to the prisoner. If you look at what's happening just now with a lot of the police, they do not maintain eye contact with anyone to take away the humanity and de-individualize people, so that they are bigger and better. They're a force, and that's horrible. That's like fascism almost. When you're not paying
Yeah,
someone due human process and looking at them with humanity, that's not right.
It goes
absolutely.
back to that idea of the other, and that they're the warrior sent in to quote unquote protect, and that there's always this outside thing that they have to combat. That they
There's a
go ahead, I'm
go.
sorry.
Oh, they're supposed to be public servants, but they have an us versus them mentality.
Exactly.
When
Yeah.
they're supposed to protect the them, and yeah,
Yeah, and our idea of like punitive justice versus for things that for actions that are caused by socioeconomic uh things, like people stealing. People stealing shouldn't be treated with punitive justice because they don't have a certain thing.
Can you define punitive justice for us? What's this word punitive?
Punitive is like inflicting punishment. Like
Okay.
instead of mediating, instead of mitigating the actual problem, like
So like the
like
word punishment. Yeah, okay.
yeah, like police are called oftentimes when there are people with mental issues going on, and they use force and make the situation much worse when there should be a person coming in that understands what's going on with this person and can actually help. Does that make sense?
hmm
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's really something that, you know, I'm seeing people talk about more, and it has been talked about for a long time. This idea of like, what is the role of criminal justice, period? Is it to punish people or is it to protect the citizenry? You know, we say it's to protect the citizenry, but not just with police, but like our whole justice system is kind of set up in a way to punish people, you know, and that should be outside of the role of government, you know, because it's like, what is punishment? Even punishment is enacted on like a parental level to what, dissuade your kid from doing something again. If you do something wrong, I'll punish you and then you won't do it again, you know. And I guess that's your right as a parent, though I don't know, that's ethically questionable a little bit to me too. But it's like, what do we think that the government really should have the right to do? Like the framing of what it's supposed to be doing is so important here, because if it's really to protect people, and if the police exist to protect people, then everything they should do, everything that they do should be reactionary, right? Like not actionary, like not going out and looking for people committing wrongdoing, going undercover and busting people and parking and waiting for someone to drive by with a busted headlight, you know. They should be a
Exactly.
service that exists only if there's a problem, like firefighters. So firefighters don't go around looking for fires. You call a firefighter if there's a fucking fire. This is what the police department needs to be like, you know. It's become, or has always been, this entity that is just out there prowling, you know. Like
I
they
think
need to.
like a busted tail light, like that means that maybe someone's working and there would be a lot of cars out there with busted taillights, and it's almost like a push for them to get it fixed, almost like. But instead of using what Amber said as punitive justice and escalating a situation, it should be calm and measured. Like, we see that this has happened. Could you please remember to do this? We're not going to fine you, but just remember to get this done in future, please. Thank you very much, and then on you go. But they escalate it to a situation where it becomes something of what it doesn't need to be.
Exactly. Or it's used to police police other communities more harshly. Like the Black community has always bared the brunt of police.
Mm-hmm.
Completely.
Yeah, and if you're black and have a busted headlight, the chances of you being pulled over greatly increases, you know. And like you were just talking about, like, you know, people with mental illness, the cops are called on them and shit, and we should actually have like social workers handling some of these situations and shit. I think the same could be true for the police department, as far as like driving stuff, you know, like the police have so many jobs and they're not good at any of them, you know, and part of it is probably because they have so many jobs and so much unchecked power. Like there should be like safety on the road commissions or something, like, you know, like mall parking lot security. Like someone drives by with a busted headlight, then the little fucking highway security guy comes up behind you and gives you a little citation, you know. It shouldn't be like a criminal act. Like the fact that a busted headlight, I get that it compromises the safety of others, but like, why are cops taking care of this and also taking care of disarming school shooters, you know? I feel like cops should be, well, I mean, we should just destroy the police system, abolish the police, and then create like 20 committees to replace it. One for road safety, one for like mental health and wellness. Like, you know, like it's just, they do way too much. I think that we need some group of people to respond to violent situations, and that's the thing that the cops are most under criticism for failing to be able to perform okay, you know, because they also do all these other things, patrol the streets and try to find people doing something wrong, which often is black people, and then, you know, putting them in a chokehold for fucking selling cigarettes illegally, or they think, and then that person's dead. Like, it's such a broken system.
It becomes something where you end up having to find a thing to protect yourself from the thing that's supposed to protect you, which ends up being a complete can of worms that you don't want to open, because that becomes vigilantes, etc.
Mm-hmm. And, you know,
Dude, I'm
yeah.
reading about this warrior, what is it called? Bulletproof Mind warrior training thing. And the guy who runs these was quoted as like, so it says Grossman, by the way, also enticed his audience by noting that killing can lead to great sex. Both partners
Oh my
are very
God.
invested in some very intense sex. There's not a whole lot of perks that come with this job. You find one, relax, and enjoy it, he said.
Are
The
you
fuck?
serious?
Yeah.
Holy shit. And also, it's important to mention that I think it's upwards of 40% of male police officers have domestic violence charges.
Yeah.
Yep.
Insane.
Yeah.
That admit to it. Their 40% will openly admit to it.
Yeah.
It's probably
Or have
much
had
higher.
someone call the cops on them. Absolutely. Well, I mean, it's easy to fall into a sort of nihilistic viewpoint when looking at all of this shit, because it seems like the only solution is to abolish the police, and this is why people are fighting for this, and we should continue fighting for it. At the same time, you know, like Lorenzo Camboa Irvin said, that we can still make minor wins within the system itself, you know, and if that's the only thing that can happen at the time being, then so be it, you know, because I think it's a dangerous attitude to fall into, like, feeling as if this entire struggle is futile, because it feels like it, you know. But I think, especially as a white person, like, and for white people, it's our responsibility to, even if we recognize the futility of a lot of this shit, try to come up with some sort of like meaningful solutions in the interim, you know. Like what before we go, like, can you guys think of anything that like you think should happen in the immediate future if we're working towards a more radical goal of abolishing the police, period? Like, what kinds of tiny wins can be won?
Have someone like Dave Grossman, an ex United States Army Lieutenant Colonel who specialized in the study of psychology of killing, to teach people how to act. That has to go number one. That is not. He's got specialized in the study of the psychology of killing. That is not right. The study and the effects of killing on the human psyche, that needs to go. You don't need to kill people at all.
I think there's definitely room for more analysis on police practices and just being aware of it, but also maybe forming coalitions that keep their eyes on the police, like
That's a
people
great
that you
idea.
can
Like a police
call.
watch.
Yeah, like people that a group that people can call to arrive on scene when they've been pulled over or something.
Mm,
I
like
think
a
the
citizen's
1033
guard.
program should be shut down.
What is it?
The 1033 program, I'm obsessed with that. I'm sorry. I just
Tell
really
us
don't.
about it.
It's just, I think I told you the first talk that we had,
Yeah,
but
I remember
basically
it.
surplus army stuff gets sent for free to your local police. So like
Yes.
there's somebody, one of the towns over here has 2 grenade launchers. For what?
Yeah, and
And then
fucking
when you
tank.
pair that with that training, it's like, if we have a right to a fair and speedy trial, why are we empowering the police to give us death sentences just on site?
Exactly.
Right. And even if they never use the grenade launcher, this like reinforces the psychology of police itself that they are warriors out here fighting the citizenry. Like even
Yeah.
if you never use the grenade launcher, just the knowledge of the police department possessing one, I think instills in you a sense that like, if I have to use this, I will, or it's my right. It's the duty of us.
Yeah.
And that was an interesting. It's a program you said, the
Yeah, it's a
1033.
federal program. There's also a grant that you can apply for that gives you funding for the same kind of stuff. I forget what the grant is called, but it's the Homeland Security something or other. And it goes hand in hand with that warrior training thing, because part of the mindset of that is, oh, you're fighting terrorism in the streets. You need to be prepared to stop terrorism at any point in time. But that's not the function of the police.
Right.
Right.
And I think like someone was just saying, it's so important to be educated about these things because like I didn't know until you shared that information with us that these things were being given to the police departments for free. Because in a lot of these talks about defunding the police, I also saw it mentioned that like, if we defund the police, they'll have less access to some of these like military weapons and shit, but because I thought that they were like literally buying them, but they're actually just being gifted to them for free. So if we defund the police, that won't stop them acquiring all of this military surplus shit too. So we need to know about these things.
And
Yeah,
that scares me because, like you were saying, when this kind of dies down, they're going to be pissed. They've got a vendetta now. If we defund these people and they still have access to military grade weapons, like what the fuck are they going to do? I don't know.
because
It makes me feel kind of paranoid.
what was the United States bill for the military spending? Over $700 billion this year, 2020. $700 billion was spent on military alone. That is, as Bill Hicks would say, clothe every single person, not one person excluded with that money, because that would do much better than it is doing just now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. I mean, I don't know like what the solution is. Like what is the best thing to fight for, because like there's so many different things that are causing problems, like especially as interest dies down and Americans move on to the next fucking Jeffree Star, Shane Dawson YouTube drama thing and forget about protests. Like there's going to be less and less social mobility around campaigning for certain things. Like it seems like the focus needs to narrow towards like specific goals, like it's good to see people saying abolish the police and stuff, but if this like energy dies down, which I hope it's not, I mean I think it is dying down, but like it's like, well, what then should we focus on if there's less public support around these initiatives? Like I don't know. I'm still not like even close to understanding the U.S. legal system, but I feel like murder needs to become a federal crime. Like, why is murder not a federal crime? Child pornography is a federal crime because it has to do with like the internet and commerce. But like murder is not a federal crime. If murder was a federal crime, then it would be so much easier to prosecute cops for murder. I'm sure there would be some Supreme Court ruling where it's like, oh, cops have immunity against this or that, you know, but there should be mandatory charges brought against any person that murders, period. And this
Yeah.
would be scary too. I mean, it's scary to want to grant this power to the government because this would also, I think, fuck over people who like murder in self-defense. And then we would have people like the young woman who killed her pimp and was in jail
Yeah.
for like over a decade, you know, because like I don't think charges should have been brought against her, period. And that would be scary then too if murder became a federal crime and you had to always, there were mandatory charges brought against you. I think a lot of people would get fucked over too. Women killing abusive husbands, people just, black people murdering white people in instances of self-defense. Like, I'm not sure that that's a solution either, but there needs to be some sort of federal mandate. Maybe if you're an official of the state, it's a crime to kill a citizen.
If you're in police custody, I think then it should be a federal crime for any officer who is an arresting officer or someone who's around the person at the time of the death. They should be culpable in said death, to be honest with you, because they're liable for that person's life. They've you've given you've literally got that person's life in your hands and you're literally throwing it away.
Right. You're like the legal guardian of that person for that
Yep.
time being. If someone dies in police custody, there should absolutely be a mandatory fucking protocol for pressing charges. There has to be a trial. Like the fact, I know that even if there is a trial, especially with the culture of cops being all buddy buddy with each other, then you know cops will still get away with shit. But at least a step in the right direction would be making it mandatory for any cops who kill. Period. Something needs to happen. The fact that they're not even mandatorily suspended is insane.
Yeah.
I think this is definitely something to fight for. You know, it's crazy. Well, what about protests? What's going on in everyone's respective states? Have you seen what do you feel about like news coverage of all these things too? Like, what do you see happening?
News coverage in Scotland, you see a lot of it. In smaller stations, mostly on social media, a lot of the news does do it, but they paint it in a bad light. Which is mostly the media's doing now with certain things.
Covering the U.S. protests in Scotland
Yeah,
or local
yeah.
protests?
Usual protests in Scotland around the world. Because there have been protests around Scotland, and the US, but mostly I think a lot of people are using social media to coalesce and speak to each other about this because media don't have the power to really enact with people that are doing it.
What about the race relationships in Scotland? I know Scotland only has like 1% black population, but is there coverage or narratives there about like police uh, being unfair to black citizens there or any other
Completely,
racial minority?
completely. Yeah,
Interesting.
it happens all the time here, and it's not being spoken about, and that's horrible. It's stupid, and it needs to be spoken about. Uh, Guys have been killed in police custody, and nothing has been done about it at all. And nothing's been looked into, and if it has been looked into, it's been swept above board or swept under the table, and nothing's been done about it.
Are there guns in Scotland?
After the Dunblane school shooting, laws for people to have guns, you had to surrender them. You need to get a license for a gun, and a license to get a gun here is quite hard to get. Police can have guns. In Glasgow, just recently, a man in a hotel stabbed 6 people, and he was shot. Um, Now, this was a hotel who was housing immigrants because the immigrants that were coming over to Scotland and needed housing, they were just put in this place. And this man was not of sound mind at all, and he acted out and he was killed when he
Wow.
should have been restrained appropriately. Yeah, you can check it out, Glasgow hotel stabbing, and check it out.
So what is the general public sentiment in Scotland like towards this sort of thing? Would you say there's a lot of support for the idea that the cops should not have shot this person like in instances like this, or is it more people support the cops? A mix of both?
I don't know, because there's a lot of racist sentiment around in Scotland, because here it's very Protestant where I am, and it's very Britain for the British, God save the Queen, etc. And very racist with that rhetoric. We don't want to be a part of the EU, and we don't want immigrants here, and it's very racist, and that's not cool. That's not right. That's like Chris. These are people that are fleeing war-torn countries to get away from it, and you're just making them look to be criminals. That's not cool. No,
In
not.
countries that are war torn because of the not so distant histories of colonization and
Yep.
I mean, we literally cause so many problems in uh, every other fucking place that's not the Anglosphere, and then when they come here for support, turn them away, like for problems
Exactly.
we created for them and continue to create for them.
So they're used as an excuse for violence coming to the city, when Glasgow during the 90s had the highest knife crime rate in the EU.
Wow.
Crazy.
See what I mean? Like, that's not right. Like, they're used as scapegoats, and this thing with the police. Even like what happened with the Glasgow city airport bombing thing. That was interesting, because there's a lot of stuff going on with that under the radar. Like, it could have been this guy, could have been this guy. It might have been funded from this, but you don't know, because it's all conjecture at the end of the day.
Right.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, this is a world fucking problem, like, and it's important to talk about it in the context of the world as well, you know. This is
and
not a problem specific to America.
with the police being armed, you do have armed response units that will tackle certain things when it's needed, but not not every policeman like goes around carrying a gun. They're a specialized unit in Scotland. Um, Normally they will have either pepper spray, baton, handcuffs, or at the most a taser. That's it.
Mm, that's good.
Yeah,
That's
because
how it should be here.
it's non-lethal force, and with people that are exacerbating situations, police can sometimes become volatile. But I will say, for Scotland being Scotland, a lot of the people in Glasgow are probably more volatile than the police.
Mm,
Um, if you're thinking about the drinking culture, and as I said in the 90s and early 2000s about the stabbing crime rate, very horrible here. So it's got a lot of violence in a very small country. But I do kind of respect the police in a sense, because being white, I've never had anything bad happen to me. But that's not to speak for people who haven't had anything bad happen to them at the hands of the police. Um, if they do something, then shame on them. They should know better, and act better.
right. And like we've been saying, I mean, unless you actually actively try to root out the problem, it won't resolve itself, you know. So like these things need to be attacked. Mm. What about the rest of you guys in America? Like, what have you guys been watching the news or anything? Like, what do you feel like the narrative changing in your opinion? Like, what are you perceiving?
I feel like it's definitely dying down. Like
Mm-hmm.
the coverage and the amount of people that are hyped up about it has definitely died down in the past few weeks.
Mm-hmm. It has. And I haven't really been watching the news, but from what I gather, I've watched it a few times. From what I gather, they're going back to COVID reporting, you know, especially in the US as COVID is just surging extraordinarily.
Yeah.
Not in any of the real protest states, though, which is interesting and a comfort. It seems like, you know, most of the protesters wore masks. I was so afraid that there was going to be a huge surge in New York City and other places where there was heavy protests, but it seems like, for the most part, the masks were effective, and also meeting outside. You know, it seems like the disease doesn't really transmit outdoors. So that's good, but yeah, it's scary and disappointing that coverage is dying down, and what that also does to our own psyches. You know, like I had a hard time getting the reading together for this week. You know, it seems like it's less at the forefront of even my own mind. You know, and this is something that shouldn't be true. Like, because this is the hard part. You know, maintaining vigilance.
For sure.
All right, well, I'm feeding back. Who's got me on speakerphone?
That was Lex.
Stop it. Lex. Lex, are you out of work now?
Yeah, I've been chilling, just listening.
Did you read the Civil Rights Act?
Did? Were you saying something? I can't hear you.
Battery might have died. Either that or she muted herself.
She's
Yeah,
gone.
I think her battery died. Maybe.
Oh, she's back.
Sorry, I cut out. Lex, what were your thoughts? I'm sorry.
It was a lot. It was a lot to read. The language was not very accessible.
Right?
I spent a lot of time this morning looking at what the fuck an attorney general is.
We talked about that too. We had to just
I was
look up
like,
the
what the
Attorney
fuck?
General.
And then I was looking into it, and they have like their own associations, and it's really fucked up. It's kind of similar to how, do you know like the association ALEC, like the
No.
legislative association?
Oh yeah, they were talking about that in the 13th documentary. Yeah.
Yes, it's pretty much, it runs the same way. These attorney generals, there's a Republican Attorney General Association that works in the same way that ALEC does, and it's pretty much a lobbyist organization, and it has like big tobacco and oil and fucking all those corporations that pay them money to go on trips and do all this bullshit, and then have these fucking bills or whatever the fuck brought up and shit. It's like, I guess like um the Attorney General Commission was responsible too for like a lot of the tobacco shit in the 90s and like all that. So it was just interesting.
Why?
Fucked up.
God. I hate everything. Yeah, just like the one we were just talking about, the one title 10 maybe, where it's about voting registration information. Like, why is the Secretary of Commerce tasked with collecting racial demographic information about voting populations? Like, everything has some sort of financial interest intertwined. Like, it's just fucking money. I mean, like we were saying about power, where there's power, there'll be corruption, and where there's money, there'll also be corruption, because in America, money equals power. I mean, we can't, I feel like we'll never have a solution for as long as these things are all profitable. And that was like the big point of last week's discussion, you know, the prison industries and shit. Like,
Yeah, I just found out who Wisconsin's Attorney General was, and tell me why this guy like there's some fucked up shit with this guy that accidentally dipped into, you know, some money that wasn't supposed to be for him because he spent it on some like a $10,000 fucking coin or some shit that
What?
I don't even. It was like the most stupidest shit I ever read. He spent like government money on a coin that
Oh
said
my god.
like something about like hell yeah, ride till I die or some on this
Are you
coin.
serious?
I'm gonna
Did
look it
he
up again because it's so ridiculous.
did he get done for that, like an expense inquiry? Because something like that over here in the UK, there was a whole thing about uh, politicians claiming for things that they shouldn't be claiming for, like second houses or family members or things that they shouldn't need to be paid for, etc. What is putting the government out of pocket?
I mean, probably, but there's also like when I was researching this Republican Attorney General Association, like these corporations, since it pretty much is lobbying, this association or some of these associations that seem pretty official at face value are actually organizations listed as tax exempt status under 501c3, so they're considered charitable organizations. So it's like they sometimes will get money from, you know, whatever fucking company, and it's like this bullshit. Okay, I found it. His name is Schimmel. He dropped $10,000 on some fucking coins for medallions, short for his motto, kicking ass every day. This was in
What?
2007.
Oh my god. That's insane.
Ordering 2,000 new keepsake coins with inscriptions saying kick ass every day. He invested taxpayer dollars to use the coins to reward hardworking state justice department staff. That's what he did with his money.
What the
That's
fuck?
fucking ridiculous. Yeah, that kind of shit happens all the time. Like people using taxpayer dollars to like travel and shit. Especially if you're like, okay, like I'm a state representative for Idaho and I'm gonna have one meeting with this other representative in Hawaii or something, but I'm really just taking my family on a vacation. So like we'll write off travel for me and my family and it's all okay because I'm gonna have one meeting with this Hawaiian person or something, you know?
Pretty much.
And your boss is your friend, so they're gonna approve it. It's all craziness. Oh yeah, one more thing I wanted to talk about before we went is also, did you guys see the shooting at the Chaz place? And where is this place? Seattle? It's like a community. I think it got shut down, but it started during the protests where they weren't allowing any police into it, and they're like self-policing. You know, they set up like an entire little kind of community within the city on the streets, and like cops weren't allowed to go in at all or something. And there was a shooting there, I believe, last week. Where two kids drove in and started, apparently, I don't know, started shooting into the crowd, and the people there were armed and they shot them back, and it turned out to be two young black men. One was 14 and one was 16. And it's really interesting because, you know, this community was set up to as part of the protests against police brutality, and then within weeks, you know, there's shootings of black people. They weren't unarmed, but you know, it's like there's two black kids dying even here, you know. Like it makes you think too about like what kinds of things need to happen, like if we do out the police system, like there needs to be a plan, you know. And I think as far as that shit goes, like Bash was saying, exists in Scotland. Like we need a class of people that is experts on disarming people with weapons, you know, using non-lethal force. Like there needs to be an emphasis on this.
Do you think that there's something to do with the amount of training that is given to said police officers, like with the amount of time and effort put in, because looking at places like around Europe, I put it on Instagram and it was flagged as being the information was inappropriate. Like Sweden, it's like 5 to 6 years in police academy. Finland, 5 to 6 years in police academy. Norway, Germany, it's like 5 to 6 years in a police academy. And looking up what the US is, it was different because it maintains
It's like
state to state.
900 hours or
Yeah,
something.
it's like maintaining different state to state bases and looking up to see every state what it was. It's different for every state. Now, should there be a completely unifying amount of time that it takes to be a police officer within federal guidelines at least? Because there would have to be. You need to, if you need to be a lawyer, you need to know what you're doing. You need to get a degree in law to practice law. You should do the same for being a police, in a sense,
Right.
in my
I don't
opinion.
think police even have an official license status. Like, you need a license to be a hairdresser, but I don't think you even need a license to be a police officer, or maybe that varies by state, but I
Yeah.
think this is true for most states. Yeah, absolutely, there needs to be more training, but on top of that, there needs to be a different focus in training, because, like, you guys were talking about the warrior mentality thing, you know, and how they're trained this way. They should be trained instead with, like, they have to become experts on disarming legal people without killing them, you know. Like, that's definitely a thing that I know certain military people undergo this kind of training when they want to retrieve people and not kill them because they want them as part of this or that, I don't know, trial or something, or and if you kill them you won't be able to press charges or do this or that, you know. There's definitely instances where cops are able to retrieve violent people. I mean, everyone brings up the Dylan Roof shooting, because it's like he was disarmed. I don't know what the situation was, but it's like, why for all these like mass shootings committed by like little white boys, they're able, and half of them have like fucking like semi-automatics and shit. It's like, why are you able to retrieve these people, but you can't disarm a man with a fucking revolver in the street or something, you know? People just see it, the cops just see it as free reign, and it's obvious what kind of implicit biases are playing out, because like these people overwhelmingly end up murdered, and then the justification is like, well, they were shooting. So we need to get rid of this attitude. Sorry, what?
I was gonna ask if anyone seen the Netflix. It was like a little science experiment show. It was like 100 humans or some shit. They took.
Oh yeah.
There's like that episode where they had like the people, you know, have like these fake guns, and they had like someone pop out with a phone, and then someone pop out with like a thing, and you had a gun, and you had to. It was like about quick reactions, and it was just crazy. Like each time they saw a black man with a phone, they fucking shot this dude. Like just not just like quick reaction, just more. It's just like so crazy.
Yeah, I
I
think
don't know
that's
how
so.
that, you know, that I feel like their science in parts of it was kind of, you know, shit, but
Right. Yeah, I mean, we definitely need to be doing these sorts of things with the police too, because like it makes me think of the Angela Davis essay we read last time, where she's talking about how like black people become fetishized and as criminals in the American psyche, you know, especially, I mean, with media, all we see, or all we've seen for the longest time, is, you know, depictions of black people being gangsters, being thugs. Like, even the more quote unquote progressive movies about race, it always has to be about like racism, you know, like movies about slavery and this. It's like the representation of black people is so poor in the media, and that really does reinforce your psyche in a way that I think most people aren't even cognizant of, you know? Like, no matter what you believe, when it comes to things like split second reactions, you're acting on some sort of like implicit bias, you know? Like, these things need to be actively undone with things like training, where you can undo these things. Like, they definitely need to go through that shit as well. Oop. Am I here? Did I cut out?
You're
No,
here.
Oh, okay, sorry.
I'm gonna need to
Stop.
go to bed.
All right, go to bed, Scotland. Thanks for talking to us.
Love you. See you all soon.
Love ya. All right, bye. Lex, what do you think about like the coverage of this shit, like where it's going? Do you feel like people are losing motivation, or is the narrative transforming in any way that you're noticing?
So I do not watch the news. I do not watch cable television. Partly because I choose not to right now, especially like I can't be on fucking Facebook. I can't be on any of that shit because it's just terrible. I can't. It's just traumatizing almost to see such things all day long of just acts of violence. But at least for Twitter and Instagram, I'm like actively on. The people around me that are posting kind of gave up on well, I'm gonna post a black square and I'm gonna, all these fucking links and all these bail funds and all these, whatever else in my bio, and now it's just back to, it's summertime and I'm gonna take this pic and my stories are gonna look like I'm having a really good time. And kind of like the whole mood around at least where I am right now, like living has changed within the past like 2 weeks. I haven't had any. There's protests still going on, but they're not. It used to be around 11 o'clock down the street that I live on. They'd be fireworks, like a mile long protest, foot and car and bike and every other people, and now it's just quiet. Just parties, people kind of gave up, and especially, the people that are white kind of don't have that connection towards, what's going on right now.
Yeah, it's definitely disappointing and scary,
I don't think white
because
people want to police white people anymore. I think they're tired of it.
right. And I mean, we were talking about this the other day. Like, I feel like unless white people are actually pressured to care, like we were a few weeks ago when people are like, white silence is violence and shit, and the climate of social media posting, people felt like, okay, well, if I don't post about it, I'm like being complicit or something. Unless there's active pressure, a lot of us just aren't going to do shit. Which is the problem with all of this shit. Unless there's some incentive or punishment or something, like they're not going to do anything.
The thing is, like when you do watch the news, and I watch it rarely or a little bit each day, it's they only talk about the bad, like the chop or the Chaz shootings or the radical left and Antifa this and that. And I feel like the sentiment that's being put out there for the majority of people in the country is like BLM is bad. Like, we don't want that. They're trying to become a political party, this and that. And I feel like that may be part of it. It's just like they're being given conflicting information, and that's conflicting with the real life, the real life goings on. And it's just really interesting how it seems like the narrative is kind of shifting. Like this is they're after you, like type of thing.
Yeah, and I've noticed too a lot more criticisms of the people in charge of BLM, which I think is totally warranted. Like apparently a ton of white people run BLM, and also like I don't know if they were talking about what they do with their money and shit. Like it's definitely useful to point out these sorts of things, but I am noticing too. I feel like people and white people are kind of trying to be like, well, the issue's so complicated. I saw a lot of white people that consider themselves like radical leftists, like almost laughing at the Chaz shooting, like, like you guys are idiots, like it's kind of like embracing this feeling of like futility. The issue is too complex. There's too many mixed motives. Like it almost alleviates yourself of a feeling of responsibility to be like to turn the lens to being critical of these organizations and the protesters themselves and calling them naive and This is an attitude I really observe in like radical leftists, especially because their thing is always like, and I align with this thinking, but their thing is always like, well, nothing's going to change until we have like a radical revolution. And it's like, yes, this is true on some level, but on a certain level, you're also absolving yourself of accountability. Like, and it's easy for you to say because you're not the people that are being targeted for this kind of police violence. Like, your life is not on the line. So even though it's true on a certain level, nothing will be right until we actually overthrow capitalism and abolish the police and all this shit. That can't be like your working MO, unless you don't care about what's happening to people.
Yeah, kind of speaking of, have you guys heard of this QAnon thing going around?
Yeah.
And that's like kind of what I'm speaking about. It seems like they've taken this quote unquote conspiracy theory that they're all after you, they're after the right, and they're trying to bring down I don't really know what their narrative is, but it's like trending right now on Twitter, and like the things people are saying is and I'm seeing now that a former advisor of, I think, Trump is going to testify something regarding QAnon. I'm not sure. I'm still trying to read up on it, but it seems like it's really making some movement there.
Well, QAnon, if I'm not mistaken, is a conspiracy that I think started in like 2016 or around the Trump election. And I think it's just like I think it speaks to just this body of conspiracy theories that has to do with Pizzagate and all this other like deep state stuff. And Trump is like,
You're right.
they're like Trump fans, and he mentions the deep state and shit. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what QAnon literally means, but I believe it's supposed to be a person because I've seen people be like, well, who is QAnon? Trump knows who QAnon is and shit.
I
So
think
I
it
think
might
it
be. It
started on
might.
4chan.
Yeah, I think they might spin it like Trump is gonna take down the deep state. Like we're on your side,
What
type
the
of
fuck
shit.
is the deep state? Like, what
Take
is
down.
it?
Yeah, I don't know. So they aim to take down all the pedophiles and this and that and all the corruption, and it's just like, bro, you are the corruption.
I think it's just a dog whistle for like anybody that opposes them. Anybody
Yeah.
with any other political ideology is the deep state.
It's crazy too. Like, I've noticed with QAnon, like these kinds of things, these 4chan things used to only be talked about by like 4chan type people. But I've seen even like middle-aged white Southern ladies like out here with QAnon signs at protests and shit. Like,
Yeah.
where are they interfacing with this shit? I think it's on Facebook, and I think that's part of why Facebook's come under such fire for like disinformation and stuff. Because this is definitely a new development from the past few years that now even like middle-aged people are like repeating 4chan rhetoric and conspiracies and shit.
Yeah, the right has a way of disseminating information and getting people organized in a way that I feel like the left just has not latched onto. And I like how you were talking earlier, like I feel like there's huge fissures within the leftist community.
Yeah, totally. I think like, like the left has this problem of really just kind of self-righteousness, and like, as soon as a leader emerges, we're just going to become obsessed with finding something wrong with them and making that a narrative. And not only the people who are going to go on about like why this person is bad, like I remember like, Bernie Sanders, people just started talking about like, well, he has a mansion and he's capitalist, whatever. And then you have everyone responding to that. And then instead of talking about serious issues, it's just this moral purity test that we're always doing with different individuals. The right doesn't do that to each other. Like, the right actually rallies around people and doesn't critique their personhood so much as like their ideas, which is sad. Like, we can't do that. Like, and this is what we're doing now with BLM and shit. I feel like I'm seeing so many liberals and quote unquote leftists just talk about everything's corrupt and this person's bad and you thought this narrative was good, but these protesters are all fake. And it's like, dude, even though I agree with a lot of these criticisms, it's like, well, what good are you doing? You're just like encouraging nihilism, you know? I get it. It's hard to feel like not defeated in the face of everything and knowing that people have corrupt interests and shit, but like, especially as a white person, like, it's like, well, your responsibility is not to, your responsibility is to the people that are actually like dealing with this shit every day, you know? It's true the
Yeah.
system's corrupt, but like harping on it all day won't do anything. You're basically saying there's no solution. And I feel like it's a personal way to resolve yourself of accountability. That's what it is. Like, oh, nothing can be done, so I'll do nothing. It reminds me of like religion and shit. Like, I don't understand the ways of the Lord. The ways of the Lord are mysterious. I can't rationalize why like God is the king of everything or whatever, but I just have faith or whatever. So I don't have to do anything. Like, I don't have to
Yeah.
think critically. Everything, there's a divine reason for everything. Like, you know, it's just like making the problem inaccessible, saying that it's all futile, which I get it because it does feel futile, but like, can't give into that attitude, you know?
And I feel like with capitalism, it's definitely turned activism into a performative profit seeking action. Like it's hard to, like with the Black Lives Matter movement, it's hard to rally behind it now, knowing that a lot of the top dogs of this organization, like a lot of the funds aren't being distributed. Like there's huge problems within it, and it's hard to tell like what's performative and what's actually real with
Right.
the leftist movement.
Mm-hmm. And that's why I think, you know, overall, above everything else, the most important thing we can be doing is educating ourselves, you know,
Agreed.
because you have to have a critical mind about even BLM and whoever else. But you need to, I mean, the best way to have a critical mind is to try to become an expert on the thing that you want to be critical of, you know. We need to understand how all this shit is working together. And even if this system itself is broken and needs to be overturned before things can be actually right, like no matter what, we're in a system right now. We need to at least understand it and come up with a plan so that even if we do have a radical fucking revolution, we know what to do after it. We don't want to end up like the fucking forefathers trying to make best of the current situation because they didn't have a fucking game plan, you know? You got to go into everything with a game plan.
Yeah, for sure.
Hell yeah. So, that being said, now that we have read the Constitution in full, we have read the Civil Rights Act, we are now familiar with the legal language of the Civil Rights Act, even though a lot of it I felt was inaccessible. It's good to read it and familiarize yourself with what this shit looks like. I think the next thing we're going to be doing for next Sunday, I'll post it by tomorrow. I'm going to try to post it tonight. I'm really sorry again that this happened last minute, but I just didn't want to go another week without doing it. We're going to read a Supreme Court ruling, or maybe two, depending on how long they are, because, you know, the Supreme Court rulings are similar to acts of Congress in that, you know, rulings can determine new laws. So we need to be familiar with the language of that shit as well and how that functions. And eventually we're going to move on and start to read some more like political philosophies. But I think first we have to continue in this way of becoming more familiar with the structure of U.S. law itself. So that's what we'll be doing next. And maybe we'll read that gay baker case, or the baker who didn't want to make the cake for the gay guys, because I'm interested in that and how it relates to the Civil Rights document, the Civil Rights Act of 1964. We were talking about it earlier, I think, before you got here, Amber.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're gonna, I don't know, I'm gonna look, I want to see how long these are, but I think we should definitely read well, I'm not sure yet. I'm gonna go look at it now. But that's what we'll be reading, and I'll post it hopefully by tomorrow. I'm gonna try to post it tonight because I just really woke up before we started. So thank you everyone for coming. hope that you stay motivated, but also saying, you know, we're going to keep doing this. And thanks for participating.
Nice to meet everyone.
You too. Hopefully, we'll see you next week.
For sure.
Awesome. All right, cool. I'm going to
Bye.
get out of here. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Goodbye.